Chapter 1493. Countless light swords seemed like they did not need energy, constantly flinging over. It was not that these light swords did not need energy, but that this temple had gathered an unknown amount of energy here. It had long been fully absorbed, and could continue erupting for many years. Hence, wanting to wait for it to run out of energy, that was something impossible. Even if it was exhausted to death, it would probably not even exhaust half. Especially since they could not maintain this state for too long. Along the way, they joined hands, constantly blocking the light swords that attacked over. The power was not small, but their strength was also not weak. Especially after Tianyun broke through, his strength was even more powerful, able to block even more attacks, much easier than before. In terms of overall strength, Tianyun was basically equivalent to late-stage Middle Empyrean level. Blocking these light swords was still not much of a problem. Under their collective defense, all attacks were blocked outside, forming an absolute defense. After a bout of killing, they finally killed their way into the passageway ahead. But after killing in, the attacks did not weaken, but instead became even more frenzied. More light formations lit up all around the passageway once more. Divine lightning started to emerge from the walls, directly augmenting the light swords, transforming into numerous divine lightning light swords. The attack method did not change much, but the power increased substantially. This time, there were piles of lightning bolts inside, and they kept bombarding the area. The power rose from the original middle-level Empyrean level to the attack of early-stage upper Empyrean level. Immediately, they felt the pressure multiply, the difficulty of blocking increased by a level. Light Moon. Empyrean Feng Qiu flicked her finger, a ring flying out from her hand, transforming into an enormous bright moon, enveloping the surroundings. This ring was actually a defensive Empyrean spirit treasure, and it was even an upper Empyrean spirit treasure. The enormous bright moon turned into a shield by the side, constantly blocking the attacks. Virtually the majority of the attacks were blocked by her. Along with wave after wave of impact, her energy consumption was astonishing, her complexion becoming slightly pale. Most of the attacks were blocked by her. How could the consumption be low? Hurry, hurry, hurry. Empyrean Feng Qiu gritted her teeth. She was already going all out, there was already no way out now. Even if she retreated, she would be attacked. Moreover, they did not plan on retreating from the start, but charged forward. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others didn't hold back either. They had already taken out all sorts of upper Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasures and used them to resist the lightning swords. This passageway was not long. Normally, it would only take a short while to pass through. Now, it was as if he was walking on a muddy road. His movements became extremely slow, and he felt as if this road was extremely long. Finally, after passing through this passageway, they saw the true core of this place. The control core. The control core was very simple. There was a ball of light embedded in the center of the light array. Even with the protection of the barrier, it was still not an easy task. This was especially true for the core region. There was even a very powerful lightning power revolving around it. Terrifying divine lightning circled around the shrine. The power of this divine thunder was just like the divine thunder in the black clouds outside. It had the power of a mid to late upper Heavenly Venerate. Those with low cultivation would be turned into charcoal the moment they stepped in. This was similar to what happened to Tianyun. After being struck, he immediately turned into charcoal. This was the most crucial area. How could it be undefended? Basically, the defenses here were all top-notch. They swept a quick glance, their hearts turning cold. The difficulty here was more than just high. It was simply at a heaven-defying level. The grand array that your uncle set up is really ruthless enough. Tianyun swept a glance. For the time being, disregarding the difficulty of breaking the grand array in the center, just the attacks outside were already rather dangerous. Yes, in a while, we'll open up the path with all our might and erupt with our strongest power. Breaking this grand array will depend on you. Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu threw out all three of her Empyrean spirit treasures. The rest did the same, all erupting with their strongest power. From the start until now, they had been constantly in a state of being attacked. How could they possibly stop? They couldn't even catch a breath. If they were unable to break it, then they would die here. This was no joke. Either they succeeded or they died. There was no third choice. If there was a third choice, that would be to escape now. Perhaps there would still be a chance. Other than that, there was no other choice. Especially after charging in. After charging in, it was like facing the attacks of several upper-level Empyreans. It was fine to resist for a while, but it was impossible to resist for too long. No problem. Tianyun agreed. Breaking this grand array was not a problem. As long as he was given enough time, he would be able to take it down. Charge. Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu started. She had always chosen to start, but her overall strength was indeed the strongest. Naturally, she was the vanguard. Just as they charged out, a phantom appeared from the ball of light. It floated in midair and looked at them coldly. I didn't think that you would dare barge into the forbidden area. Even if you are Master's relative, you will still die. This is the rule. No one can change it. The artifact spirit that appeared waved its hand. The interior of the shrine was quickly shrouded by thick black clouds. Divine lightning flickered in the sky. Following that, a bolt of divine lightning struck down fiercely towards them. This artifact spirit could use the divine lightning in the surroundings at any time. The power of each move was comparable to a middle or late level Empyrean. It was truly shocking. But the effect was definitely not as strong as Heavenly Venerate Long Yun's. But the overall power was still rather terrifying. Kaboom! A heavy bolt of divine lightning struck down, causing Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu to retreat a few steps. The bright moon around her trembled from the strike, as though it was about to fall. I'll help you. Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others quickly blocked it. Following that, they withstood the divine lightning that struck down. Step by step, it was extremely difficult. Tianyun was surrounded in the center. He didn't even need to do anything. He just needed to follow along. His main goal was to break the grand array. Thus, he had to conserve his strength. When the time came, he would directly erupt and break the grand array. Because of their good coordination, there was no problem in persevering to the side of the grand array. When the artifact spirit saw this, it was anxious. But it could only use this little bit of power. It could not use any stronger. Even so, it was already enough for them to suffer. Dense bolts of divine lightning struck down, charring the surface of their bodies. Chapter 1494. With the help of Tianyun's voodoo with divine set, their condition had greatly improved. Although their bodies were still constantly injured, their condition had been greatly alleviated. At least they could hold on. As they walked forward with difficulty, they slowly began to approach the large array. Step by step, they finally arrived at the edge of the large array. At this time, the weapon spirit's attack had also increased to its most ferocious effect. The divine thunder became more and more concentrated, and the booming sound spread throughout the entire temple. The pressure on them doubled again. They did not expect the weapon spirit to be able to erupt with such terrifying power in the end. However, it was too late. They were already at the edge. Tianyun quickly took a step forward and quickly began to break the large array. Crazy Divine Seal Mode. The breaking speed of 128 times erupted, and the small divine seals began to disintegrate rapidly. The terrifying breaking speed was displayed once again. No matter how many times they saw it, they were still deeply shocked. The breaking speed was just too fast. It was like breaking a first-grade divine seal. Otherwise, how could it be so easy? In fact, the divine seals that were broken were all 6th grade, and the difficulty was not low. Under normal circumstances, it would take a long time to get rid of it. Now, it only took a short while to successfully break them. The breaking speed of 128 times was not a joke. Tianyun's breaking speed was very fast, but there were too many areas to break. No matter how fast he would still need several hours to successfully break them. However, in their current condition, it was really a nightmare for them to persist for several hours. Fortunately, Tianyun could use the voodoo with divine set to heal their injuries as he broke them. Otherwise, they would not have been able to persist. This guy is too crazy. Junior brother, hurry up. They gritted their teeth and constantly resisted the divine thunder. The feeling of the power of thunder and lightning flowing through their bodies was not pleasant at all. Their bodies were charred black. After recovering a little, they would be charred black again. This repeated over and over again. It was simply uncomfortable. Yi Tianyun's speed had long been raised to the extreme. Unless his grade increased again, he would not be able to increase his speed at all. Otherwise, he would not be able to increase his speed even if he wanted to. Soon, hold on a little longer. Yi Tianyun's forehead was already dripping with sweat. He had also raised his mental power to the maximum, and the consumption was equally shocking. Everyone present had used all of their strength. Otherwise, they would not have been able to withstand it. As time passed, Celestial Lord Sword C and the others started to be unable to resist. Even with the amazing voodoo with divine set, they couldn't hold on for too long. This was the attack of a mid to late stage upper Empyrean. They weren't unmatched, similarly having flesh bodies. If not for Yi Tianyun's treatment, he would have been lying on the ground. Right now, they were relying on pure willpower to persevere, but willpower could not make them invincible. At most, they could persevere for a while before completely collapsing. Dong dong! Celestial Venerable Sword C and Celestial Venerable Dragon Cry were struck by a bolt of divine lightning and fell to the side, fainting between them. With 2 fewer people blocking them, the pressure on Heavenly Venerate Yu Qian and the others increased dramatically. Looking at this situation, Yi Tianyun did not even succeed in cracking it, and they would completely collapse. The current situation already greatly exceeded the scope of their expectations. In their previous judgment, they should be able to persevere. Looking at it now, there was already no such possibility. How much more? Celestial Venerable Feng Qiu said solemnly. Give me another hour and I can completely crack it. But how much time will be needed inside, I can't say. But overall, persevere for 2 hours, we should be able to take it down. Yi Tianyun did not dare to say that he could definitely take it down. The grand array outside could definitely be taken down, but how to force it to recognize a master inside, this was more difficult. The time needed was hard to say. Some needed several days, even a few months. Yi Tianyun saying that he needed an hour to take down this core, no one would believe it even if he said it out. No matter what, this treasure belonged to an upper Empyrean spirit treasure. A divine lord saying that he could take down an upper Empyrean spirit treasure, they really did not believe it. But they believed in Yi Tianyun's words, that he could definitely take down this core within an hour. Moreover, looking at the current situation, they could only choose to believe. Otherwise, there would be no chance. All right. Venerable Feng Qiu quickly closed her eyes, and then suddenly opened them. 2 rays of light shot out from her beautiful eyes, and her pupils quickly turned white. In that instant, her power was released to the maximum, and the light core in her body completely erupted. A full 7th grade core, how could its power be weak? After erupting, her combat power rose sharply, continuously multiplying by several times. The Empyrean spirit treasures in her hands seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, their defensive power once again increased by several times, all of them buzzing. In such a state, the divine lightning could not strike down at all. It formed an absolute defense, protecting them firmly. Empyrean Yu Qian and the others were stunned. They did not think that Venerable Feng Qiu could still erupt with such terrifying power. If it was an explosive attack, even an upper Empyrean late-stage powerhouse would be easily killed. Yi Tianyun finally saw Venerable Feng Qiu's explosive power. Previously, when he wanted to deal with Empyrean Wuxing and the others, he wanted to erupt with such power. If he had not stopped her, Venerable Feng Qiu would have erupted. This level of power was truly an absolute trump card. Vaguely, Tianyun could feel a special power from it, an indescribable power. I can only hold on for 2 hours, I won't be able to hold on any longer and will lose consciousness. If I need more time, I'll have to rely on you guys. Venerable Feng Qiu was like a goddess descending to the mortal world. Halos flickered on her body, forming rings of halos that shrouded her, looking extremely beautiful. She could only hold on for 2 hours in this state. At that time, Yi Tianyun would not be able to seize control, and it would be up to Emperor Yu Qian and the others to resist. Emperor Swordsi and the others could all take a breather at this time, and could quickly recover under the voodoo with divine set. But they still needed to recover for a period of time before they could regain their combat power. Emperor Yu Qian and the others nodded, indicating that they understood. At that time, they would also risk everything to resist this divine lightning. Venerable Feng Qiu had a trump card, Emperor Yu Qian and the others also had a trump card, but it was still much weaker than Venerable Feng Qiu. This was a true explosive power. The originally terrifying divine lightning was unable to seep in at all. It was enough to see how terrifying it was. Enough. Chapter 1495. After Venerable Feng Qiu exploded, everything became relaxed. She felt that there was no pressure at all of it had disappeared. Yi Tianyun focused on breaking it. His speed was still the same as before. It should be said that he could not be fast in the first place. He could not be fast even if he wanted to. This was his limit. How could he still be fast? As time passed, almost an hour later, under his final point, the great formation was finally broken by him. Bang! The sturdy shield outside was pierced through just like that, revealing the crucial core inside. When everyone saw this, they were instantly overjoyed. They had finally broken through the final barrier. As long as they could forcefully control this core, everything would come to an end. The Dragon Sovereign Shrine would belong to Yi Tianyun. No one would be able to invade this place. Whoever he wanted to scram could scram. Continue. Yi Tianyun was not the least bit happy. As long as it was not completely over, he would not be in the mood to be happy. He slapped the core with one hand. It was actually a ball of light, an upper-level Empyrean spirit treasure. It was just that it was fixed here, and through the great formation here, it spread to the entire shrine. If not for this great formation, this upper-level Empyrean spirit treasure would naturally not be able to display its strongest effect. When he slapped the core, an impact surged out from within the core, sending him flying. Fortunately, Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes and hands were quick. She immediately dragged him back, and he was not sent flying. What a strong power! As expected, the core was still held back. Yi Tianyun felt that on the surface, there was still Empyrean Dragon Sovereign's power. After breaking through the barrier, there was still Empyrean Dragon Sovereign's power. It was not so easy to break through. The recoil just now had directly broken his hand. But after a little recovery, it was easily healed. The healing effect of the voodoo with divine set on his body would be even more astonishing. Do you feel that it will succeed? Venerable Feng Qiu asked. There is difficulty, but as long as this energy is dispersed, there will be no problem. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. He planned to absorb all the energy. As long as he absorbed this energy, the rest of the work would be much easier. Venerable Feng Qiu nodded. She also felt that this method was feasible. But could Yi Tianyun withstand this power? Pa! Yi Tianyun grabbed the core and quickly absorbed it. Just like before, when he grabbed it, he felt a rebounding force shoot out from the core. However, this time he was prepared. His hand gripped the core tightly and began to frantically absorb it, forcibly extracting the energy within it into his body. Ding! Received 100 points of compressed experience, 150 points of compressed experience, 200 points of compressed experience. After absorbing it, it quickly transformed into experience and flowed into his body. This value was quite good. To him, there was no such thing as absorbing too much. It was impossible for his body to explode. He would only worry about not absorbing enough. However, according to the current situation, it would take a little longer to absorb. This energy was not something that could be drained so easily. I'll help too. Heavenly Lord Sword C and the rest had more or less recovered by now, so they came over to help. In any case, Empyrean Feng Qiu alone was enough to withstand all the attacks, so Empyrean Yu Qian and the others could absorb it together. Following that, they all came over and grabbed the ball of light, forcefully extracting the energy. However, it was very different from Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun's absorption was equivalent to his own cultivation, but they were unable to absorb it as experience. They could only release it out of their bodies after absorbing it. Tianyun did not mind this. What he was pursuing now was speed, and not to earn experience here. If he wanted to earn experience, he might as well go out and kill Empyreans. The experience gained there was much more than here, especially after stacking the experience card. This little bit of experience was not enough. After everyone joined in, the absorption speed increased significantly. The artifact spirit at the side was extremely anxious. However, its attacks had long lost their effect, and had no effect on Empyrean Feng Qiu's defense. Unless the power continued to increase by a large amount, it would be meaningless. As they frantically absorbed, the ball of light quickly dimmed. Seeing this situation, everyone knew that if they continued to absorb, the small protective barrier outside would be completely absorbed. Just a little more. Everyone was overjoyed, and felt that they were about to break through. Stacking layers upon layers of things was really troublesome. But they could only break through like this, there was no other way. Following that, everyone gathered their strength and fiercely absorbed the energy. After absorbing it with a peng, the outermost protective barrier shattered, and completely exposed the ball of light. Now the last step was to subdue the artifact spirit. But before they could rejoice for too long, a gigantic pit suddenly appeared beneath their feet and sucked them in. The terrifying suction force. Before they could react, they had already been sucked in. The main thing was that it was too sudden. None of them had thought that there would be a huge pit beneath their feet, and they would all be sucked in. The moment they fell in, the ground quickly closed up, once again being imprinted with layers of divine seals. It was extremely secure, and there was no way to break it. The room that was filled with attacks regained its peace. Luckily, Master had a trick up his sleeve. The artifact spirit looked at the ground and said solemnly. At the same time, Tianyun and the rest felt themselves being crazily sucked in. The strong suction force made them unable to pull themselves back. When they flew again, they were unable to stop the suction force. It's the spatial suction force. There's actually a broken space below. If we are sucked in, if we are unlucky, we will be transported to a dangerous region. If we are lucky, we will be transported to a better unknown region. Very quickly, they immediately sensed what the thing with the terrifying suction force below was. Your uncle is too ruthless. I didn't think there would be such a setup. Tianyun wanted to curse. It really was layers upon layers, and now he had even dug a huge pit for them and was preparing to send them away. As to where they would be sent to, he wasn't sure. Perhaps it would take several years for them to return, or even decades, or even centuries. If they were sent to an even more dangerous region, then forget about returning, they would die there. I don't know. Feng Qiuzun was stunned. She hadn't thought there would be such a setup. She had never seen it before. Chapter 1496. With their current abilities, they should be able to escape from the turbulent space flow. But there was only this passageway around, and no other passageway. This meant that they could either break through the wall or be sucked in. There was no other choice. But how could this passageway be easily destroyed? And there were layers of defensive formations all around. How could it be easily destroyed? Even if it was destroyed, it would take a long time. They could not hold on for too long in such a state. They would definitely be sucked in. It's over. Venerable Feng Qiu's eyes were filled with despair. In the end, everything was for naught. It's not over. Tianyun's eyes were filled with determination as he stared at the wall in front of him, his powerful spiritual sense piercing forward, striking the seal and slowly seeping in. As long as his spiritual sense could penetrate this seal, he would be able to teleport everyone over with his teleportation. But the seal on the wall was really thick. He really could not penetrate it in a short time. Then he gritted his teeth. Grab me and hold on at the same time. Just a while is enough. Without any hesitation, Yu Qian and the rest grabbed onto Tianyun, each of them grabbing onto his hands and feet, flying forward at the same time, sticking close to the wall. Venerable Feng Qiu was startled, not knowing what this meant, but she still chose to grab onto Tianyun. After all, Yu Qian and the rest had already done this. She naturally would not refuse. It was just that she was curious why they did this. Even if they could break through this seal, it was extremely difficult. They were constantly being pulled back, and it was already very good to be able to prevent themselves from being sucked in. As for breaking through, it was too difficult. If they were not sucked in, they might have a chance to break through. Now that they were being sucked in, they could not even stand properly. How could they break through this wall? While she was feeling puzzled, Tianyun locked onto the seal in front of him, and under his swift piercing he finally squeezed into the outside environment. This was really not easy, but compared to the outermost door, it was much better. The outermost door was the one that spiritual sense could not penetrate, otherwise he could directly enter and teleport in. There would be no need to destroy it one by one. The two were not on the same level. This place was a little more fragile, but not very fragile. At least it was enough for spiritual sense to pass through. Pass to me. Tianyun's eyes narrowed, and in an instant, everyone disappeared from this space. In the next moment, they all appeared in the center of the divine hall from before, with the ball of light beside them. When Feng Qiuzun saw it, she was stunned. He was clearly trapped in that passageway just now. How did he come back now? I was almost sucked in. See how I'll deal with you this time. Tianyun extended his hand and patted the sphere of light. Next, the lightning core within his body began to revolve and a violent power rapidly flowed into the sphere. Without heavenly venerate Dragon Fate's protective barrier, it would be much easier this time. After he entered, he immediately felt a repulsive force gushing over. Actually, it was just the violent divine thunder that wanted to chase the intruder out. At this time, it was time to use the lightning core. With the lightning core, it would undoubtedly be able to withstand this power. If he didn't, the difficulty of blocking it would be greatly increased. Now that the power of the divine thunder surged out, it was rapidly absorbed by him. At the same time, a portion of the energy overflowed, causing his body to be charred by the electricity. Of course, overall, it was still beneficial. His experience points began to rise rapidly. Every time he could obtain thousands of compressed experience points, it was really quite refreshing. Combined with experience cards and the like, the effect was undoubtedly even more astonishing. And using the Voodoo with Divine set, everything was still considered balanced. The key point was that the artifact spirit was dumbfounded, completely dumbfounded. It had not even reacted to what was going on. Originally, it had already left this place to check the situation in other areas. Who knew that everything would be so sudden? Suddenly, the ball of light was controlled, and a steady stream of energy gushed in. Based on this situation, it would still take a period of time to completely control it. It was so frightened that it immediately returned. When it saw that Tianyun and the others were still standing there unharmed, it momentarily forgot to activate the surrounding great array. You intruders, how could you possibly return? After the artifact spirit reacted, it quickly controlled the surrounding great array, once again attracting the divine thunder to attack. If Tianyun and the others destroyed the wall and returned, it would definitely be able to react. Who knew that without any reaction, its body would be invaded by the energy? You don't need to care about this, just obediently be controlled. Empyrean Yu Qian and the others laughed loudly, starting to resist with all their might. This little junior brother of theirs was really powerful. He had no abilities, he was simply omnipotent. At such a crucial moment, they were still able to turn the tables. It should be said that until the end, they did not even know if they would lose. Venerable Feng Qiu was puzzled as she resisted. Until now, she still did not understand what was going on. How did Tianyun do this? Could it be teleportation? Such a terrifying teleportation? Could it ignore the divine seal and the like and teleport in? Tianyun is too lazy to care about what they think, he is concentrating on controlling it. Seeing that it was being suppressed bit by bit, according to the situation, it indeed did not need an hour to be able to control it. Under Venerable Feng Qiu's resistance, she finally fainted, her energy exhausted. This was the result. Immediately, Empyrean Yu Qian and the others stepped forward, each of them erupting with their strongest power. If they could hold on until the last moment, it would be their victory. Just a little more. Tianyun's eyes flashed with a cold light, just a little more and he would have succeeded. No! The artifact spirit roared, but the roar did not increase the power. It was still the same as before. Wang. Following that, the ball of light began to flicker, and the surrounding divine lightning instantly disappeared. Everything returned to normal without any change. If not for the surrounding charred black, it really would have been as if nothing had happened. Following that, the artifact spirit flew down, landing beside Idunyun, kneeling down and saying respectfully, "Master." Idunyun nodded and said, "Good, guard this temple for me. At the same time, trap that Emperor Hua Xing. We will treat him well later." "Yes, Master." The artifact spirit quickly disappeared, going to deal with Emperor Hua Xing. Emperor Yu Qian and the others all slumped to the ground, their bodies already charred black, looking terrible. It's finally over. This ancient Empyrean temple has finally been conquered by us. Yes, this is the first time we have conquered an ancient Empyrean temple. We are finally not picking up other people's leftovers. Chapter 1497. After Yi Tianyun had successfully subdued the artifact spirit, the entire Dragon Sovereign Shrine had become his property. Not just the shrine here, but the other shrines outside had also become his property. Although the artifact spirit would only attack those who invaded here, it did not mean that it could not control the areas outside. It could still control the areas outside. It was just that before Heavenly Lord Dragon Fate had left, he had ordered the artifact spirit to mainly protect this area. To him, what he truly cared about was this place. As for the areas outside, he could ignore them. This way, whoever Yi Tianyun wanted to chase out could be chased out. With a master, it was very easy to control, and its power would increase by a lot. Especially when he handed control over to Feng Qiuzun, the power would definitely increase greatly. Feng Qiuzun was an Empyrean. He was not even an Empyrean. Without the power of a powerful Empyrean, he was unable to display the strongest effect. Thus, breaking through to the Empyrean level was something he could not delay. He had to quickly break through to the Empyrean level. Now was the best time. After taking control of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine, he could easily eradicate some of the intruders, especially the powerhouses of the Myriad Heaven God Realm and the Saint Peak God Realm. It was very reasonable to eradicate them. Looks like she won't wake up for a while. Yi Tianyun saw that Feng Qiuzun was still unconscious. This was not a coma caused by serious injuries, but a situation caused by excessive exhaustion. In such a situation, a short period of sleep would be fine. But in this period of time, her ability to protect herself would be at its lowest. If she fainted, she would definitely be captured. Thus, Feng Qiuzun would not use this ability unless she had no other choice. In a situation where she had no companions, using it was to choose to escape. This was the most reasonable use. After resting for a while, they all recovered slightly. They had expended too much energy. After meditating for a while, they had basically recovered. With the help of pills and the like, their recovery would definitely not be too slow. It's about time. I've already let the artifact spirit open the other doors. You can all go and plunder the treasures. These treasures are all ours. Yi Tianyun smiled at his senior apprentice brothers, letting them personally plunder. According to the previous agreement, Feng Qiuzun only wanted the shrine and the golden tree. As for the other treasures, they could take as they pleased. I've been waiting for this moment. Little junior brother, aren't you going with us? The moment Heavenly Venerable Sword C heard that there were treasures to plunder, he immediately became spirited. Didn't they risk their lives for this treasure? Not for now. I have something to do first. Yanyun's eyes flashed with a cold light. After that, he disappeared from where he was and headed to another region. Sword C, Heavenly Venerable, and the rest knew what Yi Tianyun wanted to do, so they didn't care about it. All of them quickly went to search for treasures. At the same time, in a sealed temple, Heavenly Venerate Wise Star constantly slammed the walls, bombarding them with powerful attacks wave after wave. However, he couldn't break through the walls in the slightest. The divine seal on it was even more profound, and he couldn't break it with his ability. Damn it, what's going on? As soon as he entered, he was immediately sealed off. I didn't expect there to be a weapon spirit here. Empyrean Walker Star was incomparably vexed. He had spent a great deal of effort to break open the door and enter, but who knew that not long after, an artifact spirit would suddenly rush out and send him into the sealed temple. He had been trapped here for a period of time, and there was no way to break out at all. Rumble! At this time, the passageway behind him suddenly opened. After a figure entered, it closed again. Empyrean Walker Star, who was originally a little pleasantly surprised in his heart, immediately sank to the bottom after seeing the door close again. "It's you, punk." When Empyrean Walker Star saw that the figure that appeared was actually Lee Tianyun, he was immediately enraged in his heart. "That's right, it's me." Lee Tianyun walked over step by step, looking at him with narrowed eyes. "Ha, looks like you got lost with your companions and were also trapped here in the end, right?" Empyrean Walker Star thought that Lee Tianyun was trapped inside and immediately sneered and said, "Let's see how you escape this time. There's only the two of us left here." "Escape? Why should I escape?" Lee Tianyun said indifferently. "Oh, looks like you're very confident in your strength? If not for Empyrean Feng Qiu and the rest supporting me, do you think I'd be afraid of you?" Empyrean Walker Star flew into a rage and immediately erupted with his upper Empyrean strength, ruthlessly pressuring over here. Facing this pressure, Lee Tianyun didn't feel any pressure at all. His expression was still indifferent. "I'm still very confident in my own strength. However, I don't need to do anything to deal with you." Lee Tianyun gently raised his hand and the artifact spirit appeared beside him. "Master, what instructions do you have?" The artifact spirit directly knelt beside Lee Tianyun, respectfully bowing. After Empyrean Walker Star saw this, he was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect that Lee Tianyun had already become the master of this place. "You, how did you become the master of this place?" Empyrean Walker Star was frightened. He knew how strong the artifact spirit here was. It should be said that this was someone else's territory. If he really did something, he would definitely die without a doubt. What's the point of knowing this? Lee Tianyun walked over step by step and said indifferently, "It's about time to end this. You can make your move now. Attack however you like. Of course, it's not me fighting one-on-one with you. Let this artifact spirit exchange a few moves with you to play." Empyrean Walker Star's expression was ugly. How to play anymore? The artifact spirit was equivalent to the master of this place. He couldn't win even if he wanted to. This little brother, don't be impulsive. I was only targeting Empyrean Feng Qiu previously. I don't have much opinion about you. Furthermore, I didn't provoke you in any way. Everything was a misunderstanding. Empyrean Walker Star hurriedly explained. He didn't want to die here. He still wanted to become a celestial deity, to become the ruler of a generation. Misunderstanding? Lee Tianyun said indifferently, "I don't think there's any misunderstanding between us. Do you know about the new divine realm that came up?" "The new divine realm? You're talking about the divine realm that recently came up from the outer divine realm?" Empyrean Walker Star said doubtfully, "What happened to that divine realm?" "I'm that new divine realm's region lord. You guys are making things difficult for my divine realm at every turn. Is this still a misunderstanding?" Lee Tianyun smiled slightly and raised his hand. Empyrean Walker Star was dumbfounded. Only now did he know what Lee Tianyun's true identity was. Turns out that right from the beginning, the grudge was already sowed. Boom, boom, boom. Chapter 1498. Easily taking care of one. Controlling the environment here is indeed different. Even Lee Tianyun didn't make a move. Why wouldn't he make use of the convenient conditions? Unless he was an idiot, why wouldn't he? What fairness? He didn't care about that. He would use what he needed without holding back. Time to clean it up. In the next moment, his figure flashed, and he vanished on the spot before appearing in another region. Through the artifact spirit, he could clearly sense how many heavenly venerables and cultivators had entered the shrine. Then, with the appraisal eye, he could easily find out which faction they belonged to. As long as they were from the Myriad Sky Sacred Realm or the Sacred Peak Sacred Realm, he would eliminate them all. No matter what the situation was, he would eliminate them all. As for the other factions, he would deal with them according to the situation. As long as they were companions of the myriad sky's sacred realm, he would eliminate them all. After dealing with them all, the rest would be chased out. The Great Formation was activated, continuously sending them flying. After being sent flying, the cultivators were dumbfounded. They had no idea what was going on. What's going on? Why am I suddenly being ejected? Yeah, I was ejected by a special force. Quick look, the gate is starting to lock. What's going on? One by one, they saw the door quickly close. Finally, with a loud dong sound, the temple was completely sealed and no one could enter. Unless they destroyed the gate, they wouldn't be able to enter. They looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. They had been chased out for no reason. I suspect that this place already has a master. Someone has already entered and become the master. How can that be? Someone succeeded so quickly? How long has it been? And so many people have entered, yet someone has already succeeded? If that's not the case, what else could it be? Now that the gate is locked and everyone has been chased out, it's already benevolent of them not to kill them all. Becoming the master of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine would be a piece of cake for us. But we're lucky that we didn't do it. One by one, they voiced out their own guesses. Usually, when a shrine like this reappeared, it would only close down after it had a master. It was just that no one knew who the master was. Because everything happened too quickly, everything ended, making them feel extremely disappointed. They didn't find any treasures and were chased out. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't feel happy. Some cultivators couldn't help but take a detour to see if they could sneak in. They didn't give up and chose to sneak in. However, there was only one exit. As for the exit, it was a matter of the transportation formation, so it couldn't be easily found. Everyone was either looking for an exit or leaving in disappointment. Some of them were discussing which power had occupied the Dragon Sovereign Shrine. Inside, Tianyun had earned a huge amount of experience and looted many treasures. Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others placed all the treasures they had plundered in front of them. There were many Heavenly Venerate treasures and high-grade Heavenly Dao treasures. The piles of treasures made them sigh. The ancient Heavenly Venerate treasures were really a lot. No wonder so many cultivators rushed over. If they could get their hands on this pile of treasures, they would have a high chance of breaking through to the sky deity level. There are so many treasures. This is a low-grade Heavenly Venerate treasure, and this is a pretty good 5th-grade elixir. However, the most precious thing is still this bottle of blood. I didn't expect Heavenly Venerate Dragon Fate to leave behind a bottle of his own bloodline. If I had the dragon bloodline, I would definitely be strengthened a lot after absorbing it. Senior Brother Dragon Cry is very good to use. He happens to have the dragon bloodline. After absorbing it, he can greatly enhance his strength. They all agreed that the bloodline was very suitable for Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. Among them, only Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry had displayed the power of the dragon bloodline. Although Tianyun had it, he didn't show it as intensely as Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry. He seemed more reserved. Thus, it was normal that they didn't know that Tianyun also had the dragon bloodline. Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry looked at the bloodline with a burning gaze. He indeed desired this bloodline very much. After absorbing it, he would definitely improve a lot. No, little junior brother has the dragon bloodline. I can still sense that. Heavenly Venerate Dragon Cry smiled and said, "The one who contributed the most is still little junior brother. This reward should be obtained by little junior brother." There wasn't much blood in this bottle, only about 2 or 3 drops. These were all blood essence, and it was already very good to have 2 or 3 drops. Its value was indeed comparable to an upper-level Heavenly Venerate treasure. It was considered a relatively top-notch type among so many treasures. Tianyun smiled and said, "I do have the dragon bloodline, but it's still more suitable for senior brother. I can just take some other treasures, such as Heavenly Venerate treasures. The rest can be divided among everyone. If not for you guys, I wouldn't have been able to take down this temple. Little junior brother is being humble. We are just manual labor. If it were anyone else, they would also be able to easily replace us. In the end, it's still little junior brother who played a crucial role, being able to break the divine seal and also suppress the artifact spirit. They all approved of Yi Tianyun's credit greatly. What they said was similarly not wrong. Their strength was very strong, but that was all. If it were other upper-level heavenly venerates, they could immediately replace their positions. There's no need to say these words anymore. If we find other people, it will also arouse greed. Better be happier with our senior brother. At least, there won't be so many worries. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, "It's decided then. Everyone divide these. I'll just casually pick a few." "All right, we won't be courteous with little junior brother. Whatever you need us for, we'll definitely move out together. Following little junior brother, you'll definitely have food to eat." They exchanged a glance and all burst out laughing. Since they were family, they would not stand on ceremony. When the time came, they would immediately come over to help. After Yi Tianyun picked a few heavenly venerate level treasures first, he basically did not need the rest. Heavenly venerate level treasures, those that could move him, were relatively few. Those that could help a little more were some heavenly venerate level treasures. As for other medicinal pills and whatnot, the effect was not great to him. What he relied on was experience and not medicinal pills. Consuming these medicinal pills would not increase much experience. This had always been a common problem. Unless it was a special experience pill, otherwise, the effect would all be average. Eating it was like eating for free. The best was to let them eat, the effect would be much better. To reach such a great realm, one had to experience a heavenly tribulation. It was the same for a heavenly venerable to break through to the heavenly god realm. They both needed to experience a terrifying heavenly tribulation. The difficulty was the same as before. They had to intercept a bunch of inferior, heavenly venerables or divine sovereigns. Strength did not mean that one would break through. It was very likely that one would fall, and the probability of that happening was not small. Boom! The terrifying heavenly tribulation began to spread outwards, rushing towards the periphery of the Dragon Sovereign Temple. Following that, circles of light were released one after another. This kind of light was connected to the Earth Monarch. This meant that there would be as many halos as there were Earth Refinement Lords. The more halos there were, the more difficult it would be. This connection would continue until he broke through to the heavenly deity realm. Because the Earth Sovereign level was extremely important, he could not afford to be careless. If he wanted to have higher achievements, he would need to be at least at the 7th or 8th refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. Otherwise, his future potential would be extremely limited. But correspondingly, the difficulty would become even higher. Yi Tianyun was a 10 refinements Earth Monarch, the number 1 Earth Monarch throughout the ages. This meant that he had 10 circles of heavenly tribulation that would continuously appear in the air. After the circles superimposed, the difficulty increased crazily. With each increase in circle, the difficulty increased by several times. This kind of situation immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators outside. At the same time, it also included the attention of Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others. Speaking of which, I wonder what level little junior brother will reach? Is it 7 refinements Earth Monarch, 8 refinements Earth Monarch, or 9 refinements Earth Monarch? It's definitely 9 refinements Earth Monarch. If not, how can he have such strength? That's true. No matter what, he's 9 refinements Earth Monarch. If 9 refinements Earth Monarch breaks through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm, then he's really strong enough. He can be considered an upper-level Heavenly Venerable. They expressed their agreement and felt that it was more or less like this. When the cultivators outside saw that someone broke through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm, they were all very curious. Someone broke through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm? And he broke through in the temple? Looks like he had some fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, how could he break through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm? Breaking through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm should be in the bag. Thinking back when I broke through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm, I didn't know how much effort it took. I almost died. Each and every one of them revealed envious gazes. They felt very envious of Yi Tianyun who broke through in the temple. Especially divine lords. Most divine lords didn't have the confidence to break through to the heavenly venerable realm. The difficulty was too high. How could they dare to mess around? No matter what, they had to cultivate a little longer before choosing to break through to the heavenly venerable realm. Only then would they have a little confidence and increase the success rate. While they were talking, the halo quickly superimposed to the 8th level and continued to superimpose to the 9th level. After everyone saw it, they all sighed again. I said that little junior brother would break through because of 9 refinements Earth Monarch. However, although the difficulty is high, isn't it still easy for little junior brother? Yes, for a normal 9 refinements Earth Monarch, this kind of heavenly tribulation is considered a narrow escape, but for little junior brother, the difficulty isn't high. Quickly look, it's actually a 9 refinements Earth Monarch who broke through. He's really a great genius. If he successfully breaks through, he can immediately become an upper-level heavenly venerable realm. I didn't expect it to be a genius. I wonder which faction is he from? When they saw this level of heavenly tribulation, the cultivators who originally wanted to leave stopped one after another and watched Tianyun transcend the tribulation at the side. This kind of scene wasn't considered rare. From time to time, there would be divine lords breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm. However, heavenly tribulation of 9 levels of difficulty was still very rare. Just when everyone thought that there was only 9 levels of difficulty, suddenly, a huge halo of light surged over from the void, and the colorful light illuminated their eyes. Immediately, everyone was stunned. When they reacted, they suspected if their eyes were playing tricks on them. 10th level of difficulty. There was actually a 10th level of difficulty. Didn't it mean that it was a 10 refinements Earth Monarch? The problem was that there was such a saying as 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Everyone was dumbfounded. Whether it was the outer divine realm or the inner divine realm, they all believed that 9 refinements Earth Monarch was the limit. Now that a 10 refinements Earth Monarch popped out, it really made them dumbfounded. Little junior brother, heavenly venerable swordsman and the others were still talking cheerfully. When they suddenly saw this scene, all of them were dumbfounded. What did 10 refinements Earth Monarch mean? Ten refinements Earth Monarch was something that had never happened before. How could it not be important? One had to know that a 9th refinement Earth Monarch was already heaven-defying. What about a 10th refinement Earth Monarch? That was the creation of a whole new era. The Empyreans and heavenly deities all went crazy, all of them quickly sending people to investigate. Who exactly had this level of skill? It was crazy outside, and it was the same inside. Little junior brother is a 10 refinements Earth Monarch, too terrifying, no wonder he can jump levels to battle. Just this foundation of the 10 refinements Earth Monarch realm, when he breaks through to the God Monarch realm, he will definitely be a level ahead of others. Heavenly Venerable Sword C was stunned. This difference was very obvious, especially in the later stages. For example, when a 9th refinement Earth Monarch broke through to a Divine Monarch, if the opponent was an 8th refinement Earth Monarch, let alone a 1st-level Divine Monarch, even a 2nd-level Divine Monarch would be beaten up. If a 7th refinement Earth Monarch broke through to the God Monarch realm, even a God Monarch level 3 would be hung up and beaten. As for 4th-level God Monarchs, he could even contend with them. As for the breakthroughs of the 6th refinement Earth Monarch, there was even less to say. The impact was extremely deep. Therefore, if one broke through to the 10th refinement Earth Monarch, the effect would be even more obvious. Under normal circumstances, when a 9th refinement Earth Monarch broke through to the peak of the God Monarch realm, he would be able to fight against a lower-level Heavenly Venerable, and he could even fight against a middle-level Heavenly Venerable for a long time. This was the difference. Therefore, one could imagine how great the impact of a 10th refinement Earth Monarch would be. But even if it's a 10th refinement Earth Monarch, can he jump levels to battle so many levels? It can only be said that he has other abilities. If it's just a 10th refinement Earth Monarch, I believe it definitely won't work. Yes, this matter must not be leaked, otherwise little junior brother will definitely be in danger. They immediately discussed that this matter could not be spread out. If it was known, Tianyun would definitely be captured. At that time, forget about the great Devis, even the heaven cultivation god domain would not be able to protect him. After all, this matter would not only affect the 4th grade god domains, even the 5th grade god domains would be affected. At that time, a few heavenly gods would be sent down to capture Itaonyun. Who would dare to stop them? Itaonyun was completely unaware of these things. He had chosen this place to break through. It was the safest. At the same time, the people here were also the most trustworthy. If he found a corner to break through to the heavenly venerable realm, the commotion of breaking through to the heavenly venerable realm would definitely spread to several god domains. It would be impossible for no one to know. At that time, there would be no protection. He would definitely be discovered, and he might even be captured by the heavenly gods as soon as it ended. It was safer for him to stay in this dragon sovereign shrine. No one could enter. The 10th heaven tribulation quickly formed, and countless lightning dragons rapidly rushed over. The first wave was this terrifying lightning dragon. This heaven tribulation is not difficult for me at all. Itaonyun smiled slightly, activating his crazy damage mode, brandishing domineering power to rush up, smashing this terrifying lightning dragon with one punch. This lightning dragon was very powerful. It had the power of an early or middle-level heavenly venerable. But what meaning did this have to him? As long as it wasn't an upper-level heavenly venerable attack, it was meaningless to him. He could smash it with one punch. Following that, the 2nd heaven tribulation arrived as scheduled, quickly descending tribulation fire. The power of this tribulation fire rapidly changed to an extremely domineering divine fire. Its power instantly rose to the middle or late level of a lower-level heavenly venerable, its power increasing once again. But the result didn't change. It was still smashed with one punch. Following that, the difficulty kept increasing layer by layer, first to the late level of a lower-level heavenly venerable, then to the early level of a middle-level heavenly venerable. This power made the many lower-level heavenly venerables feel somewhat fearful. If they were to block it, they wouldn't be able to block it, yet a divine lord could actually block it? This made them even crazier. How could a 10 refinement Earth Lord have such shocking performance? Little did they know that it was all a misunderstanding. How could a 10 refinement Earth Lord have such shocking power? It was all the credit of crazy mode. But even without crazy mode, if one wanted to pass this heaven tribulation, they had to use a powerful bloodline or something like that. Not only did they need a powerful bloodline, but they also needed powerful armor and weapons, and even more shocking martial arts. Actually, to put it bluntly, everything had to be at a heaven-defying level, otherwise they could forget about passing. This was the heavens making things difficult. They didn't want a genius with a 10 refinement Earth Lord foundation to break through to heavenly venerable. Chapter 1501. When the outside world thought that the 10 refinements Earth Lord was so heaven-defying, only Itaonyun knew that the real situation was not like this. It was because the difficulty was too high that no cultivator succeeded. The conditions were too harsh. Ordinary strength could not break through at all. Breaking through to Divine Lord was already a big deal, let alone breaking through to Heavenly Venerable. The power is getting stronger and stronger. If this continues, I will probably have to withstand the attack of an upper Heavenly Venerable in the end. Itaonyun felt an extremely strong pressure coming from above. Now that he had reached the 7th level, his attack was already comparable to a middle or late-stage Heavenly Venerable. If this continued, the final attack would probably reach the early stage of an upper Heavenly Venerable, the strongest attack. Under such circumstances, how could an ordinary cultivator resist? They would definitely need to suppress their cultivation for a long time before they could break through. Everything had to be the best. Otherwise, how could they resist? Moreover, they were constantly being attacked and could not take the initiative to attack. They could only choose to defend. Itaonyun had crazy mode, so he could take the initiative to attack. Otherwise, he would also be beaten up. Soon, the heavenly tribulation reached the 10th level. Sure enough, the power had increased to the early stage of an upper Heavenly Venerable. The wind and clouds changed, the void shattered, and the nearby shattered space changed drastically because of this. Everyone was dumbfounded. How was this still a tribulation? It was simply being hung up and beaten. It looked like they could not believe that this was a Divine Lord-level tribulation. After all, if they were to resist it, they might not be able to resist it. This time, their hearts trembled. Was the 10 refinements Earth Lord too heaven-defying, or was the cultivator transcending the tribulation too heaven-defying? Can this guy still succeed? Who could withstand such a terrifying power? Yeah, this feeling is already comparable to an upper heavenly venerable's attack. Even if it's just one move, it's heaven-defying. Too terrifying. The previous attack was already terrifying enough. The final attack is simply fatal. The surrounding cultivators were scared silly. If it was such a difficult level, who could break through in the future? If it was an heavenly venerable, they might be able to resist it, but what about a divine lord? The attack that seemed unbelievable to them was so ordinary in Yi Tianyun's eyes. How many upper heavenly venerables did he face? In the end, under his all-out attack, the terrifying 10th level of the heavenly tribulation was destroyed just like that. Following that, the energy gathered by the 10 heavenly tribulations rapidly flowed down from the sky, surging into Yi Tianyun's body. It began to strengthen his body at a crazy rate. Everything was so easy. This was all thanks to his strong foundation. Otherwise, it would have been more strenuous. You succeeded? Everyone was stunned once again. Some people thought that it was impossible to pass, but it was passed just like that. It was impossible for a divine lord to transcend the tribulation, right? That's impossible. He's definitely not a divine lord, but a heavenly venerable. He really succeeded. Unbelievable. This trip was really worth it. But as for which force they belong to, or whether they are male or female, I must see their true appearance. They all went crazy. The heavenly tribulation that seemed so powerful had passed just like that. It made it difficult for them to calm down for a long time. But Empyrean Sword C and the rest smiled and said, I knew that little junior brother can definitely pass through the heavenly tribulation. Speaking of which, the difficulty is really too great. If it were me, I would have died without leaving a single piece of me behind. Not to mention you, even I can't withstand it. They shook their heads. When they were at the peak Divine Lord level, it was already not bad to be able to fight with lower-level heavenly venerables. As for facing this terrifying power, they really would have been blasted into nothingness. However, the heavenly tribulation of a 10 refinements Earth Lord is at least a dozen times harder than a 9 refinements Earth Lord. The last time I saw a heavenly venerable tribulation of a 9 refinements Earth Lord, its power was at most lower-level heavenly venerable middle stage or late stage. It was much weaker than this. Heavenly venerable Li Tian recalled what he had seen previously. It was not rare to see a divine lord with a 9 refinements Earth Lord foundation break through here, but it was also not common. From time to time, they would see it. The difficulty was not low, but it was still far from Yi Tianyun's. Those who could successfully break through to heavenly venerable with a 9 refinements Earth Lord foundation were all super geniuses of their generation. They would all be elders in the future. As they were all sighing, Yi Tianyun continuously absorbed the surrounding energy to transform his body. He could clearly feel that his power was rapidly transforming. The star power in his body began to gradually transform into heavenly venerable power, a brand new energy system. Only with heavenly venerable power could one unleash the power of heavenly venerable spirit treasure. After a period of time, the transformation was finally complete, and he also broke through to the lower heavenly venerate level. Finally broke through, Tianyun took a deep breath. He felt that his strength had increased a lot, especially when he felt that all the heavenly venerables were a pile of garbage in front of him. Ding! Successfully completed the special level-up mission, breakthrough to a higher realm. After condensing the 5th planet, obtained 10,000 compression crazy point and 5,000 compression proficiency. Also obtained the title Super Heavenly Venerable. Super Heavenly Venerable has a suppressive effect when facing Heavenly Venerable level opponents, can weaken the opponent's combat effectiveness, and at the same time, increase your combat effectiveness by 10 times. Only effective when facing Heavenly Venerable, this title is not much different from the previous titles like Earth Lord. It can weaken the opponent's combat effectiveness and increase his combat effectiveness. To him, this was already quite useful. Unfortunately, it is useless against heavenly gods. If it was useful, the effect would be amazing. Now with this title, at least in the heavenly venerable level, it can be said that he can walk sideways. Ding! Successfully accepted the special leveling up mission, breakthrough to a higher realm. After condensing the 10th planet, obtained 1 million compression crazy point and 1 million compression proficiency. Also obtained the title Super Heavenly God. You can directly break through to Heavenly God without completing it, but there is no reward. This task has just ended, and immediately a new advancement task popped up. The reward obtained is slightly stronger, but generally there is no change. It's become 10 planets again? This is quite difficult. Now there are only 7 planets, and I need to get 3 more. Tianyun saw this condition and felt that it is still quite difficult. But 1 planet is basically set, that is the dark planet, but what about the other 2? Now that I have broken through to Heavenly Venerable, there should be no problem passing the trial of light and dark, right? Chapter 1502. After breaking through to Empyrean, it meant that one could use Empyrean spirit treasures or condense Empyrean spirit treasures. This was a rather cautious thing. After all, one could only condense 1 at each stage. There were really no more. It meant that if it was lost, it would all be gone. If one wanted to condense again, they would need to wait for the next stage. The effects of each stage were different. Fortunately, if it was damaged, it could be slowly nurtured and repaired. It could basically be used all the time. Overall, it was still very good. It belonged to a kind of economical and practical lifeblood treasure. Could be strong or weak. Those with few resources, the Empyrean spirit treasure would naturally be a little weaker. Those with many resources, fiercely smashing down, then the result would be a very powerful Empyrean spirit treasure. The advantage was that one did not need to seek help from others and could condense it himself. Unlike in the past, one had to go find an artificer or something to refine a treasure. Now, it was custom-made by oneself, but the quality was up to oneself. Condensing Empyrean spirit treasure, the first Empyrean spirit treasure, just what kind of treasure is needed? Defensive or offensive? Tianyun thought about it. He really did not have any goals. After all, he had never thought about this all along. This did not give him too much time to think. Some had always been thinking about what kind of Empyrean spirit treasure to condense when they were at peak Divine Lord. Tianyun rushed all the way up and unknowingly broke through to Empyrean. Hence, he naturally did not have good ideas. Forget it, I'll think about it when I'm free. I'll go back first and talk. Tianyun's figure flashed and he returned to the great hall from before. This time, Empyrean Phoenix Autumn already woke up and was meditating to recover by the side. Little junior brother, really congratulations, you broke through to Empyrean. Breaking through to Empyrean is nothing, the main thing is the foundation of 10 refinements Earth Lord. This is really miraculous. In other words, it's absolutely a unique existence in all of eternity. But this matter absolutely can't be spread out. Otherwise, it will attract a fatal disaster. All along, no one has broken through to 10 refinements Earth Lord, but little junior brother could succeed. If this method spreads out, it will definitely drive people crazy. Each and every one of them reminded Tianyun not to spread the method, in case it caused a dispute. Hearing their concern, Tianyun's heart warmed. He smiled and said, actually, there's nothing about this method that can't be spread. It all depends on my mood. It should be said that there have been people who tried it before, but it was too difficult. They didn't have the ability to succeed, and as time passed, they failed. All of them were stunned, not knowing what Tianyun meant. At this moment, Tianyun stretched out 2 fingers and said with a faint smile, it's easy to break through to the 10th refinement Earth Monarch. Just condense 2 planets in your body and you'll be able to break through. He didn't mind revealing it at all. He had broken through a long time ago, and this kind of thing wasn't a big secret. Even if someone cultivated to the 10th refinement of the Earth Monarch realm, what did that have to do with him? Could it be that they could threaten him? He hid it because he didn't want to be captured for research. Right now, he didn't dare to casually expose it, but in front of his senior brothers, what harm was there in saying it? What? All of them were stunned. Even Feng Qiu, who was at the side, jumped up in fright. She had just woken up and heard such news. It was just that she was embarrassed to wake up and talk, especially when talking about such a crucial topic. It was best to pretend that she was recovering and didn't hear anything. Now that she heard such a heavyweight news, she was completely stunned. Little junior brother, you aren't joking, right? Even Heavenly Venerable Sword C stuttered. Condensing 2 planets, this kind of situation isn't a problem. Normally, condensing a second planet or something like that, one has to be at the Divine Lord level and above before they dare to do it. If it's Earth Monarch condensing, it's basically a level of 9 deaths and 1 life. That's right, it's a level of 9 deaths and 1 life. So basically no one can succeed. As time passed, no one dared to try anymore. The result is that simple. Is it too out of your expectations? Tianyun said with a smile. This method had been tried a long time ago. It was just that it had been tried too many times and experienced too many failures, so no one dared to try anymore. Maybe some people succeeded, but later on, due to breaking through to the Divine Lord level or something, they naturally were completely ignored. This is really too out of our expectations. I thought it was some martial art or some spirit pill to break through. So it's this kind of forbidden method. They were all shocked. Normally, they called it a forbidden method. That was, before becoming a Divine Lord, one mustn't casually condense a second planet. Of course, condensing a second planet in the later stages was not easy. It had to be in line with one's physique. Otherwise, one's body would definitely explode. That's right, it's this kind of forbidden method. Probably no one would believe it if I told them, right? Tianyun said with a smile, but the result is like this. As long as the second planet is condensed, one can successfully break through to the 10th refinement Earth Monarch. Everything is that simple. Tianyun's smile was so terrifying in their eyes. If this was simple, the 10th refinement Earth Monarchs would have long been everywhere. They shook their heads and smiled bitterly. So what if they knew now? It was something that had 9 deaths and 1 life. It could even be said that 10 deaths and 1 life were certain. But no one would believe it if I told them. They would definitely think that you used some other method. It seems like we can't publicize it in the end. You are the real master. After Heavenly Venerable Sword C and the others knew the truth, they almost cried. This method was really terrifying. It wasn't easy to nurture a 9th refinement Earth Monarch. Whether it was the outer or inner deity realms, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to reach the 9th refinement Earth Monarch. If one died just like that when breaking through to the 10th refinement Earth Monarch, everything would be in vain. Therefore, it still depended on one's resources. If one's resources were heaven-defying, they could still play around. Otherwise, the few 9th refinement Earth Monarchs that they had painstakingly nurtured would all die because of condensing a second planet. That kind of feeling could be imagined. It was better to just have a 9th refinement Earth Monarch. After all, a 9th refinement Earth Monarch was already very strong. Breaking through to the Heavenly Venerable level was considered a relatively strong type. I didn't intend to publicize it in the first place. I just wanted to tell senior brothers so that they wouldn't say that I'm hiding my abilities, Tianyun said with a smile. Our little junior brother is still the most generous. He said it casually. It's just that the truth is a little terrifying. They laughed loudly. If it was them, they might really give it a try. Different situations would naturally make different choices. For example, if they were alone at that time, then they would just die. As for now, that was the entire sex matter. The death of a 9th refinement Earth Monarch was a huge loss. They definitely couldn't try this method casually. Chapter 1503. They, who knew the truth, did not know whether to laugh or cry. The difficulty of 10 refining Earth Monarch was unattainable. So they already knew how to break through. It was just that they had tried too many times and failed too many times, causing people to lose hope in 10 refining Earth Monarchs. Yi Tianyun had broken through to 10 refining Earth monarch under conditions that were impossible in the past. What could they say? But if word got out, if people believed it, there would definitely be many who would risk their lives for this 10 refining Earth monarch, and at that time, it would cause a bunch of cultivators to die. After all, there were still many who were not afraid of death, and even more who felt that they were extraordinary and felt that they could break through successfully. Needless to say, there would definitely be many who died. There were so many cultivators, and there were even more who thought that they were extraordinary, so if they really believed it, they would definitely try. Because the difficulty was too high, if word got out, the number of deaths would definitely rise. As time passed, if there was no one who succeeded, his words would definitely be questioned, and they would think that he was a liar. At that time, he would be besieged. It would truly be a thankless task. In any case, Yi Tianyun did not have that kind of fearless spirit, that kind of dedication. He did not have it at all. What others did, as long as his friends and family believed it, it was fine. Venerable Feng Qiu, looks like you have already woken up. Yi Tianyun looked at the dumbstruck Venerable Feng Qiu and sized her up. Although her aura was still weak, her overall situation was still good, and she only needed to recover for a period of time to completely recover. But this time was definitely calculated in terms of years, and this kind of eruption would consume a lot of energy, and it was not something that could be easily recovered. Even using medicinal pills would not work. Yes, I just woke up. Venerable Feng Qiu laughed awkwardly. She had heard Yi Tianyun's words, but still felt rather awkward. Don't worry about anything, I won't blame you. This is not a secret. Condense 2 planets, and successfully break through to 10 refining Earth monarch. Yi Tianyun repeated to her. This is really too inconceivable. You have broken the biggest scam in history. I had also thought of 10 refining Earth monarch before, but every time I mentioned it, I would be rejected. Everyone said that there wouldn't be a 10th refinement Earth monarch, and at most a 9th refinement Earth monarch. They told me to give up. Feng Qiuzun shook her head and said, I didn't expect this to be a scam, it's just that I don't have the ability, and thus I was thought to be at the level of failure. A scam to? Yi Tianyun rubbed his nose. He had to admit that the difficulty of the 10 refinements Earth monarch was indeed very high. It could even be said to be abnormally difficult. If he wasn't good in all aspects, he wouldn't have been able to succeed. You could call it a scam, but you could also call it not a scam. Those who said these words could only say that they were thinking for the sake of their descendants and didn't want to send them to their deaths. But this matter, I will keep this secret for Lord Heavenly Cloud. No, I am already Heavenly Sovereign Heavenly Cloud, I will keep it a secret for you. Venerable Feng Qiu was also aware of the problem. It was better not to publicize this matter. Then I'll have to thank Supreme Feng Qiu. Yi Tianyun actually didn't mind. Even if someone publicized it, he would just say it. As for whether or not someone would come to capture him, it would depend on whether he had the ability. He thought for a moment, then added, speaking of which, our gains this time are not bad. We've taken all the treasures in the shrine. Venerable Feng Qiu doesn't have any objections, right? No objections. I've already said it before, I only want the shrine and the golden tree. You can take the rest. You guys have contributed a lot. Without you guys, I wouldn't have succeeded. Venerable Feng Qiu smiled lightly, so what should be yours is still yours. I just want to keep it as a memento. The rest has nothing to do with me. She wanted the shrine to come down because she wanted to get her uncle's relics. Treasures and whatnot were just external things. What she truly had feelings for was still the venerable dragon shrine. Then we won't be courteous. Yi Tianyun smiled. Speaking of which, is Supreme Feng Qiu willing to join my force? Look at our cooperation this time. Next time, if there's any ancient ruins, I can bring you along. In the end, Supreme Feng Qiu did not join. It was just that Yi Tianyun saw an opportunity to rope her in and chose to reject. After rejecting, it was about time to leave. This place had already been plundered, and there was nothing left to be reluctant to leave. Yi Tianyun did not have any thoughts of changing his mind. He said that he would hand over control to her. When he handed over control to her, Supreme Feng Qiu was slightly touched. If it was anyone else, they might not be willing to hand it over. Although the treasures here have been plundered, the shrine's value is still very high. Supreme Feng Qiu's words were not wrong. As long as Yi Tianyun did not want to hand it over, Supreme Feng Qiu could not do anything about it. But correspondingly, Yi Tianyun could only hide here. If he went out and was discovered, the result would be obvious. I am very trustworthy. Whatever I said before, it is what it is. Yi Tianyun smiled. If possible, it would be best if you could join my force. Supreme Feng Qiu, regarding my matter, what plans do you have? Yi Tianyun looked at her solemnly. Supreme Feng Qiu was silent for a while before saying, I will not tell anyone about your matter, but I will spread the cultivation method. Spread it? Yi Tianyun shook his head. Supreme Feng Qiu, I advise you not to do that. You just have to say that someone is hiding in a corner undergoing tribulation. It has nothing to do with you. Sometimes, no one will believe you when you tell the truth. But this is a situation that can change the divine realm. Supreme Feng Qiu said with a burning gaze. No, most of the time, it will only change your own situation. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Everything depends on your own choice. Everyone has their own choice. Why do you say that? Feng Qiuzun frowned and said, This is a great discovery, just like how our ancestors spread out all sorts of cultivation levels, and all sorts of methods to break through, it is the same logic. If it is spread, it is equivalent to benefiting the entire divine realm. Benefiting the divine realm. Yi Tianyun smiled indifferently, but there are many people who are too stupid, too incompetent. The result is that those who know the truth will be completely drowned. What do you mean? Supreme Feng Qiu did not understand what Yi Tianyun meant. She only knew that if she said it, it would be equivalent to solving an unsolved mystery. Many people would think, why was there a 9 refinements Earth Monarch, but not a 10 refinements Earth Monarch? Being surrounded by this mystery, now that it was solved, how could it not be a shocking matter in the divine realm? Nothing much, you will know very soon. Chapter 1504. After Yi Tianyun and the rest left, Feng Qiuzun rested for a moment before flying out of the Dragon Sovereign Temple. The gate is open, the gate is open. At this moment, the cultivators waiting outside shivered. They all stared at the door, wondering who would come out. Who could have taken over the dragon-revered temple? Feng Qiuzun walked out, and when her figure entered everyone's eyes, they were all shocked. Supreme Feng Qiu? They were all stunned. They did not expect that the one who occupied the Dragon Sovereign Shrine was actually Feng Qiuzun. The Dragon Sovereign Shrine belongs to me now. Everyone, please leave. After a period of time, the other cultivation grounds of the Dragon Sovereign Shrine will be opened for everyone to cultivate. I welcome all fellow Taoists to come. Venerable Feng Qiu maintained her smile, still filled with friendliness. After everyone heard this, they looked at each other and laughed. So it was Venerable Feng Qiu who took it? Then we can rest easy. Feng Qiuzun's strength is not bad. It's not surprising that she could occupy the Dragon Sovereign Shrine. This is great. This way, I can come here to cultivate in the future. The Dragon Sovereign Shrine is quite famous. All of them laughed. Feng Qiuzun had always been so generous. As long as she could provide it, she would provide it. That was why she was so popular. At the same time, some people thought that she was a fool and an idiot. If he gave away everything, what about himself? No one knew what Feng Qiuzun's goal was. They all chose to hand over all sorts of benefits. How could they not be treated as fools and idiots? Rogue cultivators would not think so, but the leaders of some forces would think that Feng Qiuzun was a fool, handing over everything for nothing. As for those itinerant cultivators, they would definitely help her, but in the end, they could not be considered as their own forces. However, she had done so. She did not know what her true goal was. Everything was a mystery. Even so, there were still many people who wanted to rope in Feng Qiuzun. After all, Feng Qiuzun had high prestige, her talent was shocking, and she was a woman. This caused Feng Qiuzun's status to skyrocket. If someone were to marry her, they would fly to the heavens. The powerful domain of the gods had sent their disciples to chase after Venerable Feng Qiu, and Empyrean Wuxing and the others had done the same. If the conditions allowed, he could pay a certain price to pursue Feng Qiuzun. If they could tie the knot, their future descendants would definitely be heaven-defying, and it would bring them even more prestige. Many rogue cultivators might have joined because of this. It could be said that Feng Qiu was superior to thousands of soldiers and horses. With a single call, hundreds would respond. There was a possibility that some wandering cultivators would come over because of this. Venerable Feng Qiu, I have a question for you, please answer it. At this time, a few heavenly gods flew over with serious expressions. I wonder if Lord Heavenly Gods have any questions? Venerable Feng Qiu said with an indifferent expression. I believe in Venerable Feng Qiu. Did you see the heavenly tribulation just now? That was the Empyrean tribulation of the 10th refinement Earth Monarch. This person broke through in this temple. Do you know who that cultivator is? Several Empyrean gods, as well as many Empyrean venerables at the side, stared straight at him. They were not rogue cultivators, but people from various forces. They all had one goal, and that was to capture this person. Even if they couldn't capture him, they had to force him to tell them what the method was. I am very sorry, I cannot tell you anything about this person, but there is one thing I can say, and that is the cultivation method. Venerable Feng Qiu knew that they would definitely ask this question. If it was anyone else, they would have to deal with this question. Unless they abandoned this temple as the owner of this place, they would definitely have to come out and answer this question. The cultivation method, what exactly is it? They all came over, their eyes shooting out bright light. Very simple, it is to condense 2 planets, to meet the conditions to break through to the 10th refinement Earth Monarch. Venerable Feng Qiu answered truthfully. She said that she would not say Yi Tianyun's name, but she would still say the method. She weighed the pros and cons and still decided to say it, in order to restore the truth, to restore a scam. Back then, she was filled with anticipation towards the 10th refinement Earth Monarch, but every time she wanted to cultivate, she would be denied. As time passed, she no longer had this kind of adventurous spirit. Now, she felt that there was a need to open a new era. When these words came out, everyone was stunned and looked at her as if she was an idiot. This was simply a joke. Who would believe this bullshit? All along, it had been proven to be fake. There was simply no one within the Earth Monarch realm who could successfully condense 2 planets. Venerable Feng Qiu, I hope that you do not speak lies. This has long been proven to be impossible. The result of forcefully doing this is death. Are you trying to bring disaster to the entire deity realm? One of the deities had an ugly expression. He was the first to not believe Venerable Feng Qiu's words. That's right, is Venerable Feng Qiu joking? Or is that friend of yours speaking nonsense? This is impossible, no one has ever succeeded since the ancient times. The eyes of the deities were filled with rage. If not for Venerable Feng Qiu, they would have already grabbed him and beaten him up. This kind of thing that had already been decided, if it was said that it could succeed, who would believe it? I never speak nonsense, this is the truth. That friend of mine will also not lie to me. Venerable Feng Qiu believed that Yi Tianyun would not lie to her. Moreover, she had also thought that this was a feasible method. Won't lie to you? The deities laughed coldly. What proof do you have? How can you prove that this method is feasible? Maybe that friend of yours is actually lying to you. Venerable Feng Qiu looked at him coldly and said, whether you believe me or not, that is up to you. I have already told you the cultivation method. I ask Venerable Feng Qiu to tell me the whereabouts of that friend of yours. This matter cannot be careless. This is for the benefit of the entire deity realm. Yes, as long as we can grasp the true cultivation method, it can allow the cultivator's cultivation to break through by a large margin. This is a great discovery. It is the benefit of the entire deity realm. If you don't say it, then you are going against the entire deity realm. All of the deities were overbearing, including the Empyreans at the side. They were all filled with doubt towards her. They did not believe Venerable Feng Qiu's words. Unless they captured Yi Tianyun and frantically searched his soul at the same time, they would not believe it. That's right, maybe Venerable Feng Qiu, you know the method, you are just fooling us. You are too selfish, you are not thinking about the deity realm at all. Too selfish, and you want to frame us? We have really misjudged you. At this time, many Empyreans and divine monarchs at the side started to scold. These rogue cultivators actually started to scold Venerable Feng Qiu. I am selfish? Venerable Feng Qiu was so angry that she was trembling. She did not think that her selfless dedication would actually be scolded as selfish. And she was speaking the truth, it was not a lie. But what did she get in return? There was only a round of abuse. Little junior brother, this is the reason why you are not leaving? Something like that. I knew this would happen. A bunch of cultivators who know nothing but shit. They keep saying that they're doing this for the benefit of the whole. If this wasn't the method, but some other secret method, they definitely wouldn't reveal it. All of them look dignified, but their hearts are incomparably dirty. Chapter 1505. Yi Tianyun had long expected that revered Phoenix Autumn would fall into such a situation. It could even be said that it was a definite time. Even if he appeared and said it, it would be useless. If he did not search his soul, who would believe his words? But would he search someone's soul? This was simply the ravings of a lunatic. As for benefiting the realm of the gods, there was no need to talk about such rubbish. He did not have such a selfless spirit. So what if he was scolded for being selfish? If he had the ability, he could go and research it himself. A bunch of weaklings wanted to come over and ask for all kinds of benefits? Then, should we go out now? Heavenly Venerable Sword C couldn't bear to see her like this. I can see that she has suffered a huge blow. All along, Feng Qiuzun had been extremely generous and was willing to give anything. Now that he's been scolded for being selfish, he must have suffered a huge blow. Those pieces of trash? It's just a guy who was bribed, purposely stirring things up, in order to make Feng Qiuzun betray me. Yi Tianyun shook his head. Let's see the situation first, let me see what Feng Qiuzun will do. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at Empyrean Feng Qiu. Although he had been trying to rope in Empyrean Feng Qiu, but now, he wanted to see if Empyrean Feng Qiu was the kind of person he approved of. Even if Venerable Feng Qiu had agreed to join his forces, she had to go through a certain test. If he couldn't pass the test, he still didn't want it. What he wanted was absolute loyalty, and one that would not betray him. Although they had rejected him time and time again, who knew if they might join in the future? It should be said that Yi Tianyun had the confidence to pull Feng Qiuzun over. Now was the testing period to see how she performed. They hid and watched, while Feng Qiuzun's face turned white and green, being scolded for being selfish. It really hurt her. I swear on my honor that I'm not lying. This is the method to break through to the 10th refinement of the Earth Monarch. If everyone doesn't believe me, then it has nothing to do with me. I, Feng Qiu, have never lied. At the same time, I believed in my friend's words. Since he said so, then it was true. I will never doubt my friend's words. This is the basic rule. You can call me stupid, you can call me an idiot. Behind my back, I know how many times you've scolded me, but that's not important. What's important is that I'm willing to pay for it. Whether you believe it or not, this is the truth. At the same time, I will never betray my friends. This has always been my standard. Venerable Feng Qiu's voice was sonorous and forceful, heavily striking back at these Empyreans and gods. Whether they believed it or not, that was their business, it had nothing to do with her. He was already being kind by saying it out loud. Otherwise, you would not have obtained it so easily. As for your parents, very few people know about them, but there are still people who know. Your parents are killing maniacs and are also one of the murderers of the God Domain War. Who knows how many geniuses they killed, and also indiscriminately killed innocent people. Their hands are all stained with blood, although you have not experienced it, but you also have their bloodline. I don't know how many cultivators have been destroyed by your meddling. This is the truth, and you are the descendant of those demons. You have always used your own abilities to save this world. In reality, you want to make up for your own mistakes. But can you make up for it? Who knows how many people have died? Can you make it up to them? Be sensible, hand over that so-called friend of yours, This way you can do something of boundless virtue and make up for your parents' mistakes. The one who spoke at the side was an old god, his eyes filled with ridicule and even more so, disdain. It was very obvious that he was an old god and knew a little more. Venerable Feng Qiu's body shook, she actually froze on the spot, and then her entire body started to tremble. Yi Danyun, who was hiding in the shadows, reached out to rub his chin, his eyes flickering. There's such a thing? If it's really like that, then her actions can be understood. No matter what, Heavenly Venerable Feng Qiu's status was rather high. It would not be a wise thing to provoke those rogue cultivators. If it was anyone else, without saying a word, they would capture Feng Qiuzun first. It could be imagined that Feng Qiuzun's position and prestige was not simple, and could even be said to be astonishing. Even some of the heavenly gods didn't dare to move recklessly. At this time, everyone's gazes turned to look, wanting to hear what Feng Qiuzun had to say. Feng Qiuzun had never lied, and she probably wouldn't lie this time. Feng Qiuzun was completely silent. She then raised her head and said, "My parents are indeed from the ancient generation, but I believe that my parents are definitely not demons, and are speaking nonsense." What a joke! If you say they aren't, then they aren't? If we find an old ancient heavenly venerable, he will definitely be able to testify. Coincidentally, in my faction, there are experts from that era, and he told me about these things. The aged heavenly god laughed coldly. "If you don't believe it, why are you doing good? Why didn't you choose to join other factions? All of this can be seen, you are just trying to make up for your mistakes. Otherwise, I don't believe it. What innately willing to do good, it's all bullshit. No need to struggle, the truth is the truth, you only know how to lie to yourself." This aged heavenly god was indeed a veteran. Every word seemed to be filled with thorns, and every word was filled with aggression. It wasn't the first time they heard these words, and when they repeated it again, everyone felt that it made some sense. They actually felt that the words of this heavenly god were somewhat trustworthy. All along, who would be so generous? If they didn't make a huge mistake, how could they be so generous, so selfless? Wasn't it to make up for their mistakes, to make themselves feel better? That's right, speaking of which, it really is so. I have also heard of this matter. Feng Qiuzun's parents might really be demons. Demons? These battles in the divine realm were caused by those demons back then. Just thinking about it makes me feel terrified. Many of them, including the rogue cultivators, really believed it for a moment. They felt that if it wasn't so, why would Feng Qiuzun be so generous? My parents are not demons, everything is fake, I don't believe it. Feng Qiuzun shouted, her body trembling, her eyes red. However, her words were not convincing at all. If it's fake, why did you choose to selflessly contribute? All kinds of good deeds, are they all fake? In your heart, you must also think that your parents are demons. This heavenly god was overbearing, as though he wanted to completely force Feng Qiuzun to death. All of them looked at her with strange gazes. If it was really like this, then Feng Qiuzun's good deeds had a purpose, it was to make up for her mistakes. If that was the case, then the hearts that supported her would sink. Words were a fearful thing, it was completely displayed here. In just a few words, he had completely sealed off Feng Qiuzun's previous actions, and threw her into the ditch like trash. No. My parents are not demons, they are not demons. If they are not demons, then take out the evidence. She has always been doing good deeds to make up for her mistakes. Even she thinks so, what evidence do you need? Let me ask everyone, who would do good deeds for no reason, even an idiot would not do so. The heavenly venerables at the side shouted, echoing the words of the heavenly god. That's right, if you think about it carefully, it's all like this. This is equivalent to the child of a murderer. To make up for the mistakes of a murderer, what is there to be grateful for? Feng Qiuzun was immediately condemned by everyone, her reputation immediately became so unbearable. These old heavenly gods stared at her, wanting to see her crumble bit by bit, especially her Tao heart crumbling bit by bit. Obediently tell us about your companion, and we will not pursue this matter. At this time, the fox's tale was finally revealed, and his final goal was still this. Even if my parents are demons, I cannot go against my own morals. Just give up on this thought. Her Tao heart did not collapse, and she still held onto her previous beliefs. Good. Then don't blame us, capture her. They hardened their hearts, and could only choose to use forceful methods. But this time he had achieved his goal, and that was to first use words to attack, and let the surrounding rogue cultivators spread the news, then the other rogue cultivators would not attack them. At this time, several heavenly venerables at the side instantly exploded, turning into dust in the universe. Chapter 1507. Tianyun did not choose to show his true face. It was to avoid trouble. He did not want so many people to remember his face. If he chose to be wanted like this, then all the divine domains would recognize him. It was better to avoid trouble. He had always been like this. Who are you? You dare to kill my people? The old god at the side, when he saw Tianyun make a move, his expression instantly became extremely ugly. Tianyun had killed a few of his powerful experts. How could his expression not be ugly? Kill your people? It seems like you still know that they are your people. Spreading lies to confuse people, and even letting your companions go along with you, what are your intentions? Tianyun looked coldly at the old god. In my opinion, you are just slandering venerable Feng Qiu. Can't anyone be kind? You think that no one will be kind just because your heart is filthy? What a load of bullshit, saying so much nonsense. Isn't it just to force out the whereabouts of venerable Feng Qiu's friends? Saying so much pompous words, but in truth, you want to force out the cultivation method, so that you can increase your overall strength. This way of eating, it is truly ugly, disgusting. You even got your companions to pretend to be rogue cultivators to go along with your words. I believe everyone knows what you mean? Everyone looked at the old god, their gazes darkening. They had really thought that it was another rogue cultivator, but now it seemed that it was not a rogue cultivator, but someone sent by this god to go along with them. Heavenly God Wu Ming, I never thought that you were slandering venerable Feng Qiu. That's right, you are a great god, and you actually use such a despicable method. I believed you just now, but now it seems that Heavenly God Wu Ming is just spouting nonsense. They immediately believed Tianyun, because Heavenly God Wu Ming had just admitted that the heavenly venerables in the crowd were from his faction. Because he was too angry, he had spilled the beans. Heavenly God Wu Ming did not expect that he would fall into a trap, and subconsciously scolded, causing the situation to tilt towards venerable Feng Qiu's side. Feng Qiuzun looked up at Tianyun. She had never seen Tianyun before. Why would he help her? I did ask someone to say it, but what do you mean by that? I'm doing this for the future of the entire deity realm. I must obtain the 10 refinements Earth Monarch cultivation method. Wu Ming's anger surged, and his Empyrean deity power rapidly enveloped the surroundings. He had already regarded Tianyun as a rogue cultivator who had killed several of his heavenly venerables. How could he let him off so easily? She has already said that the cultivation method is to condense 2 planets. Is there a problem? Tianyun looked at Empyrean god Wu Ming with a calm look on his face. He wasn't worried about the Empyrean god power emanating from the surroundings. What a joke! Again with this kind of joke. However, this kind of joke isn't funny at all. Heavenly God Wu Ming said coldly, this has already been proven to be fake, and you're still treating it as the truth? Do you still believe her words? Why not? If you want to break through to the 10 refinements Earth Monarch, you need to condense 2 planets. It's that simple. Tianyun said calmly, of course, if you want to succeed, you won't be able to do it without luck. The key is your own strength. What a joke. I don't know where you came from, but you're definitely going to die today. Empyrean god Wu Ming snorted coldly. He stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void. The Empyrean god power that had already surrounded him quickly turned into a huge palm and squeezed toward Tianyun, wanting to crush him with one palm. In his opinion, Tianyun's strength was only at the level of a lower-level heavenly venerate. He didn't need to use his full strength to crush his opponent easily. At this time, A vast power erupted from Yi Tianyun's body. Chains immediately appeared behind him, forming 10 chains in the void. This meant that his foundation was at the level of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Once this 10 refinements Earth Monarch appeared, it immediately had a suppressive power. It could slightly suppress all powerhouses who didn't have a foundation at the level of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch. It also had a suppressive effect on Empyrean God Wu Ming. Of course, this effect was already negligible, mainly because the difference in cultivation was too great. If their cultivation levels were similar, then this would have an effect. Even if one was already a heavenly venerate or an Empyrean god, the foundation of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch was still there. This made the difference even more obvious. It could be said that one step ahead. Now, everyone was dumbfounded. The proof of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch was so close to them. This wasn't a legend. It had really happened. Those who were at the same cultivation level as Yi Tianyun immediately felt a great pressure, as if they were being suppressed by Yi Tianyun. It's really a 10 refinements Earth Monarch? My God, it really exists. I thought it was fake. This is too scary. It's possible to reach the level of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Many rushed over after hearing the commotion, but it was too late. By the time they arrived, Yi Tianyun had already completed his tribulation. Now that they saw it with their own eyes, they were completely stunned. Those who had seen it before were also shocked when they saw it again. This was too miraculous. Because I am her friend, and the only 10 refinements Earth Monarch. What I said is the truth. If there is any falsehood, may I be struck by lightning. Yi Tianyun immediately swore an oath in front of everyone to prove that his words were true. After making the oath, there was no lightning striking him, which meant that his words were not lies. Heavenly Venerate Sky Cloud. After Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu saw this, her eyes turned red. Apart from Yi Tianyun, who else could have broken through to the level of a 10 refinements Earth Monarch? She didn't expect that she would still draw out Yi Tianyun. She felt very guilty in her heart. Before this, Yi Tianyun had already warned her that it was best to play dumb and say that she didn't know. Who knew that it would lead to so many things, and even cause Yi Tianyun to come out, messing up the original plan? Unbeknownst to her, Yi Tianyun had already expected this kind of thing, and would not disrupt any plans. It was just that it was good for Heavenly Venerate Feng Qiu to recognize reality, but she didn't expect that even some insider information would be drawn out. Now, I have already sworn an oath. The foundation is 2 planets. Only then can I successfully break through to the 10 refinements Earth Monarch. Yi Tianyun looked at them coldly and said, all of the heavenly gods shuddered and gathered around him. This friend, I wonder if you have joined any forces? They did not immediately act violently, but instead became excited. I have not joined any forces. Yi Tianyun lied. Not joined any forces? All of their eyes lit up. One of the heavenly gods stood out and said, join our force, we will give you the best resources. No, as long as you want any resources, we will give them to you. No, join us. They will give you all the resources they have, but what resources can they have? Only then will we have more resources. We have more resources and are ranked in the top 5 of the 4th grade god domain. All of the forces seem to have gone crazy, continuously coming over to rope in Yi Tianyun. Even if he told them the method, they would still rope him in. Not only was his potential limitless, the main thing was the method. Chapter 1508. One faction after another rushed out to rope him in, each offer more tempting than the last. This was not like trying to rope in a heavenly venerable, it was more like trying to rope in a sky god, and a very powerful one at that. Under the frenzied roping, their faces were all revealed, and heavenly venerable Phoenix Autumn was completely ignored. It could be said that she was completely abandoned, and that Yi Tianyun was the focus. Our sacred peak celestial realm will also give all our resources. Heavenly God Wu Ming also offered an extremely high price, wanting to rope in Yi Tianyun. I'm sorry, even if I join other factions, I will not join your faction. Yun pointed at heavenly god Wu Ming and said coldly, "Not only is your heart filthy, but you also slandered my friend. I will never join a faction like yours." Actually, most of them had heard of the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. This guy was a sky god of the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm. How could he join the Sacred Peak Celestial Realm? Heavenly god Wu Ming's expression was ugly, and his heart sank. He wanted to fly into a rage, but he could not. He did not have a chance, but that did not mean that the other sky gods did not have a chance. Hence, if he made a move, the other sky gods would stop him and not let him make a move. Seeing a group of people trying to rope in Tianyun so crazily, Heavenly Venerable Phoenix Autumn felt a little angry. These bastards, doing so much just for this cultivation method. So what if they knew the correct method? Where was the detailed cultivation method? This was like a heaven-defying martial art. They knew the effects and power of a heaven-defying martial art, but how to cultivate it? Over so many years, no one had succeeded, which meant that the method was very important. He might need to condense a planet of some attribute, or he might need to use some elixirs, or he might even need to use some martial arts to cultivate. After all, knowing a certain condition still required many basic conditions. If the basic conditions were not met, how could one succeed? Unbeknownst to them, there were not many prerequisites. One just needed to be strong enough and bold enough to succeed. Of course, one's constitution also had to be compatible. If the planet condensed was not compatible with one's elemental body, there was no way to succeed. Tianyun won't say this out loud, because it's not necessary. Even his own faction doesn't necessarily recommend this method. Because he had experienced it himself, it was simply too difficult. If he tried it himself, the failure rate would be extremely high. Unless there was a cultivator that he fancied who fit the criteria, he might be able to give it a try. "I'm sorry, but I don't have any thoughts of joining other forces either," Tianyun said indifferently, "because you're all jackals of the same tribe. There's no point in joining you. Especially when you think that my friend is trying to make up for his mistake. Don't slander me when you don't have any concrete evidence. What demoness? What devil? It was all nonsense. You even brought out the experts of the older generation. I even said that your father killed someone. Where's the evidence? Don't be so childish, you bunch of fools. That's something that happened in the previous era, and you're speaking as if you didn't do anything. I don't know how many innocent people you've killed and how many planets you've destroyed. And you're still talking to me about the devil? You're probably the devil yourself, okay? As for the War of the Gods, that's even more nonsense. When the War of the Divine Realms broke out in the Divine Realms, weren't the Sacred Peak Divine Realms and the Myriad Heaven Divine Realms the loudest? What a joke! All of you make it sound so noble, but who knows how many shameful things you've done in secret, and how much blood is on your hands. Even if Feng Chio's parents did such a thing, at least she wasn't born at that time, so it had nothing to do with her. It's fine if she makes up for her mistakes now, or if she's being kind, at least she's truly helping others. What about you guys? What good things have you done? I feel that you haven't done any good things, but you've done a bunch of heinous things, right? Even if your father or your ancestors started hundreds of War of the Divine Realms, you probably wouldn't think of anything to make up for it. You want to find me now and force me to tell you the method? Do you really think I don't know? Tianyun spat out a bunch of words, causing their faces to twitch. He was too arrogant. There were so many gods here, did he want to die? Even if he had the foundation of a 10-refinement Earth monarch, and was at a heaven-defying level among the sky sovereigns, he still had to kneel in front of a sky god. Feng Chio covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Tianyun had stood up to speak up for her. She actually didn't know if her parents had really done it before. Sometimes she really wondered if her parents had done it before. That was why they didn't join any faction and just wanted to help the suffering. Sincerity was a big part of it. If they didn't have this kind heart, who would make up for it? If it were some black-hearted people, they wouldn't talk about making up for it. They would still eat with peace of mind. On the other hand, she couldn't do it. Her conscience was uneasy. Regardless of whether she had done it or not, she would choose to help others. Let's not talk nonsense with this brat. Everyone, capture him. The eyes of heavenly god Wu Ming and the others were red. All the sky gods were mobilized, including the other sky venerables. All the forces are trying to snatch Yi Tianyun's treasure. They want to capture Yi Tianyun. They originally wanted to use a soft approach, but who knew that Yi Tianyun wouldn't fall for it at all? Now, they could only use a hard approach. Facing a bunch of sky gods and sky venerables rushing over, the strongest were basically only at the lower sky god early stage. They didn't send two strong ones over. It should be said that lower sky gods were enough. As for middle sky gods, there was no need to participate in this kind of thing. It was just to capture an sky venerable. Was there a need to mobilize so many people? Some of the higher-ups couldn't even be bothered, because they were no longer Earth monarchs. Even if they knew the method, it was meaningless. In the end, it was enough as long as they were strong. Everything else was up to them. The opportunity to earn experience is here. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. With a quick wave of his hand, 10 sky venerable spirit treasures suddenly floated to the side. It wasn't over yet. Following that, another 10 sky venerable spirit treasures bloomed in all directions. This time, there were 20 sky venerable spirit treasures, all stacked on the side. All of them were weapons. One person controlling 20 sky venerable spirit treasures meant that he had to kill at most 20 sky venerables. This way, he could obtain so many sky venerable spirit treasures. However, he did have a lot of sky venerable spirit treasures. When he killed many sky venerables, they would all drop piles of sky venerable spirit treasures. Now, he was going to throw everything out and prepare for a great battle to his heart's content. So many sky venerable spirit treasures. After they saw it, they were immediately startled. However, many people shook their heads, feeling that this was quite unwise. Because many sky venerable spirit treasures were condensed according to their own attributes or abilities. If they were used carelessly, they wouldn't display their power to the greatest. But was the truth really like this? Chapter 1509. A fool, showing off that he obtained so many Empyrean spirit treasures? Can he control so many Empyrean spirit treasures? Yeah, with so many Empyrean spirit treasures, does he think that he can win? A little bit of bad control, that's a waste. Haha, this is called a fool, alright? There's a guy called Money Giving Boy, isn't he? In a while, he'll start snatching the Empyrean spirit treasures. Each and everyone felt that Yi Tianyun was a fool. Summoning so many weapons out, did he really think that he could control them? Immediately, batches of Empyreans rushed forward first. Among them, celestial deities controlled the surrounding space, wanting to seal Yi Tianyun here to death and not let him escape. Came at the right time. Yi Tianyun smiled slightly. His figure flashed. The Kuan Peng bloodline and Dragon Phoenix divine bloodline within his body instantly erupted, his speed increasing all at once. Incomparably astonishing speed, even celestial deities could only see an afterimage. As for Empyrean level, one really could not even see a shadow. Die for me. Yi Tianyun reached his hand out and waved it over. 20 Empyrean spirit treasures flew out. Each one had its own ability and even displayed different powers at the same time. Each Empyrean spirit treasure's power was very astonishing. Under his eruption, one pierced through the Empyreans that rushed over. After these Empyreans were attacked, they directly exploded into a cloud of blood mist, directly dying. The horrifying power made them unable to react and were easily one-shot. In a blink of an eye, 20 lives were harvested. Among them, Empyrean level accounted for roughly 10, while the rest were all Divine Lords. Even Divine Lords came to join in the fun. One had to admit that it was really foolish to the max. The moment he made his move, he scared a group of people back, scaring them silly. They thought that these attacks belonged to the feeble kind. Who knew that the power was astonishing. Each one erupted with the power that it should have. It was completely the extreme power that belonged to a low-rank Empyrean spirit treasure. How is this possible? He can control so many Empyrean spirit treasures alone? Furthermore, the attributes are all different. Damn it, how in the world does he cultivate? Being able to control 20 Empyrean spirit treasures at the same time, it's a joke, right? Too terrifying, this guy is a monster. The rogue cultivators who were watching from the side were stunned. They had also mocked this genius before, but now it seemed that the gap between them and the genius was really too big. It was just right for them to control their own Empyrean spirit treasures. It would already be considered pretty good if they could control 1 or 2 treasures of others. Now, Yi Tianyun was able to control 20 of them at one go. That was heaven-defying. These idiots. Why don't they use their brains to think about it? How did Junior Brother cultivate to such a level? He did not even need to use his brain to think about how the 10 refinements Earth Monarch came about. For so many years, no one has been able to successfully cultivate to the 10th refinement of the Earth Monarch realm. Now that little Junior Brother has succeeded, do you really think that it is so easy to cultivate? Do you really think that someone without brains can cultivate successfully? That's right. They're all a bunch of idiots. They even think that Junior Brother is the boy of fortune. What a joke. How is this giving money now? It's more like collecting souls. Empyrean Swordmaster and the rest stayed by the side and watched. When Yi Tianyun went out, he exhorted them not to interfere. Everything would be done by him. Looking at it now, there was indeed no need for them to interfere. Just Yi Tianyun alone was enough to kill a group of people. The pupils of heavenly deity Wu Ming and the rest constricted. They did not expect that a low-level Empyrean would be so powerful to actually be able to control so many Empyrean spirit treasures. It was truly inconceivable. This kid is very strong. Let's make a move. They rushed over and let the other Empyreans escape from here. Otherwise, the losses would only be greater. Adding them up, a total of 5 Empyreans surrounded him. They were not from the same faction, but now they all gathered together. Basically, they decided to cooperate in an instant. They would capture Yi Tianyun first, then force him to reveal the method. This was all their common goal. Hence, they immediately joined forces. Seeing the 5 Empyrean gods surrounding him, Yi Tianyun smiled coldly. His figure flashed, and he disappeared on the spot. The surrounding space was sealed, but there was still a lot of space inside. He could still instantly teleport over. In a flash, he rushed to the side of the other Empyreans. Throwing out 20 Empyrean spirit treasures, he easily insta-killed them. Such a sudden action, everyone did not react. They all did not know how Yi Tianyun came over. Not just that, another 10 Empyrean spirit treasures were thrown out, rapidly harvesting the other Empyreans. As long as the Empyrean spirit treasure was unsheathed, it would definitely be stained with blood. Under this round of harvesting, he earned a large sum of experience and treasures again. In the blink of an eye, the subordinates that they brought over were basically all cleaned up by him, making them become elders without an army. This kid actually killed all my subordinates. Each and every one of them was about to explode. So many of their subordinates were killed, making them hurt until their hearts were bleeding. Capture him, quickly capture him. After forcing out the cultivation method, we'll torture him to death ruthlessly. Their eyes were all red, the anger in their hearts exploding. They all chose to erupt with their powerful strength, surrounding and attacking Yi Tianyun. 5 Empyrean gods surrounding a lower-level Empyrean, no one would believe it. After all, an Empyrean god could easily kill an Empyrean. Whether it was lower level or upper level, they could all be slapped to death. But the truth was right in front of them. A lower-level Empyrean easily killed all his subordinates under the eyes of so many Empyrean gods. Tianyun often used this kind of method to completely wipe them out. Since they wanted to capture him, then they should all be prepared to stay here. Empyrean Feng Qiu immediately became nervous, but she was unable to help now. 5 Empyrean gods sealed space. Even she was unable to break through it. The disparity was too great. Even if she erupted with her core again, she would not be able to break through this sealed space. If she could break it, she would not be an upper-level Empyrean, but an Empyrean. Just in time. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He quickly waved his hand, throwing out Empyrean spirit treasures one by one, aiming at Empyrean god Wu Ming. Explode for me. He stretched out his hand and grasped at the void. The Empyrean spirit treasures that rushed over immediately emitted a dazzling light. Before they could even get close to them, they exploded fiercely. Exploding Empyrean spirit treasures. This kid is crazy. They were all going crazy watching from the side. Empyrean spirit treasures had one ultimate use, and that was to explode Empyrean spirit treasures. After detonating, it could completely unleash its power to its greatest, and its power would be several times stronger than usual. But the result was similarly tragic, and that was that this Empyrean spirit treasure was basically scrapped and could not be used anymore. Lee Tianyun blew it up very generously, and it was even a series of explosions. At the beginning, he had already detonated 4 or 5 of them, and it looked like he was going to continue. He was simply rich to the max. Chapter 15:10. Boom, boom, boom. Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasures were thrown out one after another as if they were free. They were all detonated by Lee Tianyun. In fact, it was free. Lee Tianyun just threw out Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasures, causing a series of explosions. The explosive power was comparable to the ultimate attack of a middle-level Heavenly Venerate. This was just a low-level Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure. It was already very good that it could erupt with such power. However, this was also the price of erupting with the strongest power, so it was understandable. It was just that this Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure was completely destroyed. It could still be repaired, but the price needed was the same as condensing a new Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure. Of course, each level could only condense one Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure, so it was better to exchange it for an Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure of the same level. The price needed was basically enough to purchase an Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure. This guy is really crazy. This is an Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasure, not a Heavenly Tao treasure. He clearly just broke through to the Heavenly Venerate level. How can he have so many Heavenly Venerate spiritual treasures? Did he kill many Heavenly Venerates when he was a Divine Lord? It's very possible. He might have found them in Dragon Sovereign Temple. They were all very jealous, but they could only be envious, especially if he really killed so many Heavenly Venerates. How heaven-defying was the initial Divine Lord level? After the consecutive explosions, the 5 sky celestials were immediately blown up, making them feel very uncomfortable. It wasn't that the power could seriously injure them, but after the explosion, it still made them feel very displeased. Under the continuous explosions, Lee Tianyun must have been affected. Maybe he wasn't injured, but he has been resisting the terrifying power, so they can't rush to catch Lee Tianyun. This kid is really crazy. When I catch him, I'll let him know that being born into this world is a mistake. Sky Celestial Wu Ming gritted his teeth. Not only had he embarrassed himself in front of so many people, but he had also rejected him. This humiliation made him wish he could bite Lee Tianyun to pieces and swallow him into his stomach. Just as they were about to pass through the explosion and grab Lee Tianyun, a figure suddenly disappeared. They had no idea where he went. The cultivators outside only saw Lee Tianyun's figure disappear. Immediately after, he suddenly appeared beside Heavenly God Wu Ming and swung the Heavenly Venerate Numinous treasure in his hand. Furthermore, it was an upper-level Heavenly Venerate Numinous treasure longsword. This was the weapon he had obtained from killing an upper Empyrean. These were truly powerful weapons. Lower Empyrean spirit treasures were nothing to them. What was truly effective were upper Empyrean spirit treasures. It was just that with his current strength, he could only unleash a small portion of his power, but it was enough. What he needed was to be able to completely erupt with his current strongest power. Crazy Damage Mode, activate. Dragon Phoenix Divine Meridian, open. Kuanping Bloodline, activate. The power of his bloodline was fully unleashed. Facing a Heavenly God powerhouse, he had to use all of his strength, erupt with his strongest move, and achieve a sure kill effect. As he unleashed all of his strength, the long sword in Lee Tianyun's hand pierced through Heavenly God Wu Ming at the fastest speed possible. Heavenly God Wu Ming didn't even have time to react. The long sword had already pierced through his body and reached his chest. How could this be? Heavenly God Wu Ming's body stiffened. He had never imagined that a lower heavenly venerate would rush over and sneak attack him. Normally, they would just wait for death or choose to run away. He had never seen anyone who would choose to initiate an attack. So far, Yi Tianyun was the only one who dared to initiate an attack. How could this be? Go down and reunite with your subordinates. The long sword in Yi Tianyun's hand slashed down rapidly, directly slicing Heavenly God Wu Ming into two. However, Heavenly God Wu Ming didn't die. What greeted him was an even faster sword move that sliced him into countless pieces, including his soul. Heavenly venerates didn't die easily, and heavenly gods didn't die easily either. However, just because they didn't die easily didn't mean that they wouldn't die. The moment Heavenly God Wu Ming was hit, he was already doomed to die. Yi Tianyun's speed is not a joke, especially when he uses all of his strength. If he was successfully sneak attacked, it would be a different story. If it wasn't a successful sneak attack or a frontal attack, it would definitely not be so easy. But why didn't he choose to sneak attack? With the Void Bloodline, a sneak attack can maximize the effect. Ding! Successfully killed Heavenly God Wu Ming. Reward: 6 million compressed EXP, 25,000 compressed crazy point, 20,000 SBS. Reward: Wu Ming Divine Staff, Upper Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, Wu Ming Armor, Middle Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, Wu Ming Pearl, Lower Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure, and a detailed map of Holy Peak Divine Realm. Ding! Obtained extra reward of leapfrogging kill, 100,000 compressed experience points, 1 lucky draw ticket. Killing a heavenly god gave Yi Tianyun a massive amount of EXP. Yi Tianyun was shocked by the amount of EXP he got from killing a heavenly god. According to this calculation, a heavenly god's basic value is 50,000 compressed EXP, which is really a qualitative leap. If he continues to kill a few more, he will definitely level up easily. But this is because of the sneak attack. It is so easy to earn. He used the explosion of the Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure to separate the 5 heavenly gods, and at the same time, let their attention focus on this side, thinking that he is making a final resistance. Then when they are not paying attention, he immediately sneak attacked and directly killed a heavenly god. Really poor, still using Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure? Yi Tianyun frowned. He thought that there will be a Heavenly God Spirit Treasure. Heavenly God Spirit Treasure and Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure have the same meaning. Each stage can condense a Heavenly God Spirit Treasure. But the difficulty is undoubtedly much more difficult than Heavenly Venerate Spirit Treasure. Just looking for the materials is crazy. Heavenly God Wu Ming is a veteran Heavenly God, but he still does not have a Heavenly God Spirit Treasure. It is enough to see how difficult it is. Continue. Yi Tianyun's figure flashed, quickly entered the void, and continued to sneak attack the other heavenly gods. While there is still time, he will definitely kill as many as he can. That is how many. Once he is discovered, it will be difficult for him to sneak attack. Then, his figure flashed, and he appeared behind one of the heavenly gods, sneak attacking his opponent from behind. But this heavenly god's reaction speed is very fast, and he smashed his hand hard, sending Yi Tianyun flying. The hand that was tightly holding the long sword between his thumb and index finger went numb, and a crack appeared, almost breaking his hand. So strong. Chapter 1511. I didn't expect a sneak attack from behind. Long Yu's eyes were full of surprise. She really didn't expect Yi Tianyun to sneak attack from behind. Fortunately, he had always chosen to be vigilant of his surroundings. Even if the enemy was standing in front of him, he would put his spiritual consciousness behind him to sense behind him. This was definitely not as efficient as always keeping an eye on the front, but expanding the safe range would make him safer. This was the best proof of this. He could counterattack in time. When he counterattacked with his fastest speed, he was able to keep up with Yi Tianyun's speed, and he was able to send him flying. This powerful force really showed Yi Tianyun what a sky god was. It seems that my luck is a little bad. I didn't expect this guy to be so vigilant. he had observed the 5 sky gods. Sky god Wu Ming wasn't the strongest, but he wasn't the weakest either. However, he didn't like Sky god Wu Ming, so he attacked him first. Fortunately, Sky god Wu Ming was stupid and easily dealt with him. Long Yu's overall strength was the weakest, but unexpectedly, she was the most vigilant. This meant that the sneak attack had failed. At the same time, the explosions around them disappeared. Yi Tianyun had detonated at least a dozen celestial venerate's spiritual treasures. It was about time to stop. Although he had many celestial venerate's spiritual treasures, he couldn't waste them. Now that the sneak attack had failed, it meant that he had to be vigilant. As expected, Long Yu immediately sent a voice transmission to the other 3 sky gods, telling them to be vigilant. If the sneak attack had been successful, Yi Tianyun could have continued. Unfortunately, it had failed. Whereas Sky God Wu Ming? After the explosion stopped, everyone found that Sky God Wu Ming had disappeared. However, when they looked carefully, they found that there was a mist of blood in the void. Without a doubt, Sky God Wu Ming had been killed. Oh my god, a sky god is dead. That's right, and he was killed by a lower celestial venerate. I don't even know what happened before he died. This is too scary. Even if he is a 10 refined Earth Lord, he shouldn't be that heaven-defying, right? This should be a successful sneak attack. However, even if it was a sneak attack, at least he really killed a sky god. Sky gods were very strong and difficult to kill, but they had been killed by a lower celestial venerate. This was enough to shock all the divine realms. Whether it was a sneak attack or a frontal attack, as long as one could kill a sky god, it was an amazing thing. This is strange. He probably has a void bloodline and can enter the void and attack and then. The previous explosion was just a cover to make it difficult for us to find him. After calming down, they immediately knew what was going on. All of the heavenly deities became serious. Empyrean god Wu Ming had died. If they weren't careful, they would be the ones to die. Brat, it seems like if you don't act tough, you won't even know how much you're worth. Even a 10 refinement Earth monarch would have to kneel before us. The auras of the 4 heavenly deities surged once more. They actually displayed their own strength, summoning their 3 Empyrean spirit treasures. As for the heavenly god spirit treasure, Yi Tianyun didn't know if he had it, but he knew that Yi Tianyun had summoned 3 heavenly god spirit treasures. Everyone gulped when they saw this. It seemed that for the sake of this cultivation method, these old farts were willing to throw away their pride. Anyway, they just had to catch Yi Tianyun. The winner was king, and the loser was in the wrong. As long as they could win, they would be the king. Especially the way to greatly enhance their own power, even if they don't care about face, they have to capture Yi Tianyun. This time everyone thinks that Yi Tianyun is finished. The previous sneak attack is still okay, but now if he attacks head-on, what can he do? If he could kill a celestial god like that, then there was really nothing to say. He was simply a monster among monsters. Will little junior brother fight them? Of course. Little junior brother is so strong. He will fight them no matter what. Even heavenly god Wu Ming was killed, let alone the other heavenly gods. Let's continue our sneak attack and kill another heavenly god. Little junior brother is too powerful. A lower-level sky venerate can kill a sky god. If he continues to break through, won't he be able to easily kill a sky god? They all thought that Yi Tianyun would continue to attack. They had confidence in him and felt that he would fight. When Yi Tianyun saw them besieging him, he ran away. He didn't fight them, he just ran away. Sweeping his gaze across the sealed space, Zhang Xian swiftly found the weakest point of it before disappearing from the spot. Easily escaping from the sealed space, he came to Feng Qiuzun's side and dragged her, running into the dragon-revered palace. What are you waiting for? Run in! Yi Tianyun shouted. Feng Qiu was stunned. But she had already been dragged in. Was there a need for her to run? They quickly ran into the dragon sovereign shrine and closed the door. At the same time, Tianyun said, "A bunch of old farts. Shameless. 4 against 1 junior. Shameless." Longing Moon and the others almost vomited blood. Tianyun escaped just like that. Not only did he run, he was scolded. Previously, Sky God Wu Ming was killed. If they fought one-on-one, wouldn't they be at a disadvantage? Sword Judge and the others were stunned. They all thought that Yi Tianyun would fight them head-on. But now it seemed that they had thought too much. Yi Tianyun knew when to stop. How could he continue fighting? These were 4 sky gods. Not 4 sky venerables. They would definitely run. They would run if they could. They wouldn't force their way in. This bastard kid, he actually hid inside. Let's break this dragon sovereign shrine. Longing Moon and the others were about to explode. Since they were called shameless, then they would be more thorough. They couldn't just give up. Even if the news spread to the entire god realm that they were shameless, they had to take down Yi Tianyun. They immediately started to attack the dragon sovereign shrine. After a series of attacks, they found that the door was hard to break. It was simply unbreakable. It seemed that it would take a long time before they could successfully break this door. This defense is too strong. We can only invite people to break this divine seal. The sky gods looked at each other. They immediately came to a consensus. This way it would be faster. At the same time, they sealed off the surrounding area to prevent Yi Tianyun and the others from using other teleportation formations to escape. In an instant, they completely sealed off the area. At the same time, they started to contact others to break the divine seal. The other cultivators had been watching and they were stunned by the situation in front of them. These forces seemed to have gone mad. But most of them were still thinking about what Yi Tianyun had said. Was Feng Qiu really a witch? Chapter 1512. Yi Tianyun and Feng Qiuzun hid in the revered dragon temple, looking at the situation outside. It seems that they won't be able to come in for a while. But at that time, this door will probably be broken. When Yi Tianyun saw that the attacks outside had stopped, he knew that they were going to find a divine engraving master to break the divine seal here. It's fine as long as you're fine. Feng Qiuzun stood at the side. She thought for a moment and said, Empyrean Sky Cloud, thank you for speaking up for me just now. Everyone else thinks that I'm a witch, only you don't think so. Thinking of the scene just now, she felt a pain in her heart. In the blink of an eye, her reputation had gone bad. Her previous actions were like feeding dogs. I've seen your condition with my own eyes. They just say it, who knows the details? Yi Tianyun looked at her and asked, do you have any information about your parents in this regard? No, I don't have any impression at all. I only know a little bit from gathering a little information. But I don't know most of it. Feng Qiuzun shook her head. That's it, it's all just words, there's no evidence. Moreover, it was against their will. The top divine domains all want to create a god emperor. It's not surprising that they would do such a crazy thing. If it's really like this, it's definitely not your parents who are the masterminds, they're just subordinates. Don't feel guilty in your heart. Perhaps your parents are not only supporters of the battle of the divine domains, but also opponents of the battle of the god emperors. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. Opponents? Feng Qiuzun frowned, not understanding. It's the forces that resist the battle of the god emperors. When they lose, they will naturally start to slander the other forces, turning white into black. This kind of people are not rare. Maybe your parents are the victims? Yi Tianyun thought for a moment before saying, do you have any impression of how you were born? I don't have any impression. When I woke up, I was already in a secret room. Other than my childhood memories, most of my memories are unclear. Venerable Feng Qiu shook her head. Her impression was not deep, otherwise she would not have remembered the wrong way, or even did not know the true situation of her parents. From the looks of it, you might have been sealed. Your true age is probably not 1,000 years, but 10,000 years. As for the purpose of sealing you up, I dare to make a bold guess. It's very likely that they don't want you to be found, or they want you to escape from some danger. It's more or less to make you not belong to that era, to make everyone think that you belong to this era. But now, it seemed that there were still people who knew. It seemed that there were still quite a number of those old farts who were still alive. Judging you a little, or from your appearance, I can deduce a lot of things. Yi Tianyun smiled and flew forward with Feng Qiuzun. After flying for a period of time, they attracted many cultivators. Relax, I will let you enter the inner world later. Yi Tianyun signaled Feng Qiuzun not to struggle. Feng Qiuzun nodded and did not struggle. Then, with a wave of Yi Tianyun's hand, she entered the inner world. Following that, his speed exploded, and he disappeared from everyone's line of sight at an astonishing speed. With a quick turn, he entered a barren planet. Then he immediately used the teleportation divine stone and disappeared from the planet. They're hiding in this planet. Quickly surround them, wait for the elders to come. They quickly surrounded the place and blocked it so that not even a drop of water could trickle through, not letting Yi Tianyun and the rest escape. Little did they know, Yi Tianyun had already disappeared here. How could they catch him? Chapter 1513. This is my force. You can look around as you please. When Yi Tianyun brought Feng Qiu to his own god domain of the three realms, he let her feel as she pleased. So, this is your power. Feng Qiu swept her gaze across and found that this place was quite miserable. That's right, it could be described as miserable. The average cultivation was too weak. She did not think that Yi Tianyun's force would be so weak. This made her feel that it was inconceivable. She had thought that it would be very strong, or at least at the level of a normal fourth-grade god domain. But when she looked over, it was simply a tragic sight. Their cultivation was extremely weak. The strongest was only at the level of the Lord of Heaven. In this fourth-grade god domain, they were not even worthy of being at the bottom. They could casually send a few divine monarchs over and easily crush them. Of course, there were still divine monarchs, but their numbers were pitifully small. Most of them were at the level of the Lord of Heaven and Earth monarch, and there were many with low cultivation. This made her dumbfounded. If it was anyone else that was roped in, when they saw this force, wouldn't they run away? With such weak cultivation, what could they do here? But she was only dumbfounded. She did not despise it, she just felt that it was inconceivable. At the same time, she knew what Yi Tianyun meant by protecting his own people. The forces here were so weak, how could they not need protection? To be able to survive in a fourth-grade god domain, it is truly a miracle. Feng Qiu said in shock. Yes, it is also a chance given to us by the heavens. Yi Tianyun said with a smile, there is a barrier outside that can stop experts from invading. That is why we have been able to survive here. If it wasn't for the fact that we would have been destroyed long ago. I remember now, there has always been news that there is a very strange god domain here, and no matter how we attack, we cannot enter. Looks like it is your force. Feng Qiu finally remembered what was going on, so it was this god domain. It was truly strange. That's right, it's my force. Don't you feel like a lamb walking into a tiger's den? Yi Tianyun smiled. Feng Qiuzun shook her head and said with a smile, no, I just feel that with your strength, you can easily go to a top fourth-grade force and can even go to a fifth-grade force to be an elder, but you are willing to stay here. It is really inconceivable. I'm the domain lord of this place. How can I leave so easily? Most importantly, my family is here and my friends are here. No matter how good the conditions are, I won't abandon this place. Yi Tianyun looked at her and smiled faintly. After all, this is my home. Feng Qiuzun was shocked, so it was like this. Home. Feng Qiuzun's eyes were filled with envy. It seems that joining your force is definitely the right choice, and a very right choice. Is that so? Then welcome to my home. Yi Tianyun made an inviting gesture, indicating for her to follow and tour everything. Then Yi Tianyun brought Feng Qiuzun around, and after Feng Qiuzun observed, she was completely stunned. It was undeniable that the cultivation here was generally poor, but it was extremely harmonious. It was a scene she had never seen before. There were all kinds of scheming and plotting in other places, but there was none here. Everyone lived in harmony. Most of them had a clear division of labor. All of them were extremely passionate, without any sense of despair or injustice. This was what truly shocked her. It was far beyond her imagination. This made her more and more certain that she was right to join. Yi Tianyun introduced Feng Qiuzun to Shi Shuiyun and the rest, and asked them to make arrangements. Feng Qiuzun definitely had something to do since she joined here. As long as she joined, no matter what level of cultivation she had to do things. She definitely could not be an idle person. After the arrangements were made, Yi Tianyun returned to Dragon Sovereign Shrine and informed his senior brothers that he had already left with Feng Qiuzun and told them to return. Sword Judge Heavenly Venerable and the rest already knew that Yi Tianyun definitely had a way to escape, and seeing that he was fine, they all left. They had gained quite a lot this time, and definitely had to go back and cultivate in seclusion. Before returning, Tianyun even went to take a stroll. Because his face had changed back to before, they did not notice. As expected, after walking one round, they found that the barren planet had been completely leveled. A group of cultivators searched around frantically, including the 4 heavenly gods. They also searched crazily, turning the entire place upside down. Yet they could not find a single person, making them all go crazy. What's going on? Where are they? Tell me where they are. You bastards, you're telling me they hid inside? Where are they now? Where are they? We've been watching them hide inside. Really, many people saw. Then let me ask you, where are they now? Where are they? We don't know. All of them were stunned. They thought they could claim credit, but now they were all going crazy. They watched helplessly as they went in, only to see them disappear. How could they not be driven mad? What the hell is going on? Could it be that they had long set up a teleportation formation to escape on this planet? But we didn't find any teleportation formation on this planet, nor did we see any signs of damage. The 4 heavenly gods were really going crazy. They didn't see anything. They just disappeared into thin air? There's only one possibility. They used some special treasure to easily escape? It's still very normal for this group of idiots to be unable to detect something. They could only think so now. If they couldn't find them like this, where would they put their old faces? They had thrown away all their old faces, but now they were telling them that they couldn't find them. They really lost face for nothing. When the news spread, the few of them would really go crazy. After spending so much money, all they got was for nothing. How could they not go crazy? Right now, the most important thing is to find them, especially Feng Qiuzun. Finding her is equivalent to finding her friends. There's no difference between the two. They immediately decided on what to do, and immediately took action. Tianyun watched from the side. Others thought that he was a rogue cultivator, and could not be bothered with him. Disguise, what a good thing. Tianyun laughed. He used his special ability to easily hide himself. It was rather useful. If he used his previous appearance, he would definitely be chased half to death. The most important thing was that he could deceive the heavenly gods. If he couldn't, then it would be useless. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.